Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
The lights are on and we are here after a wild Tuesday afternoon. The storms knocking trees down. Jason, a tree fell on your house. Bull's out with COVID. So I'm in for Bull today. He'll be back shortly once he clears protocol. He's feeling good, so that's good for Bull. But other than that, what a wild Tuesday afternoon here in Cleveland. G, you said you got a tree on a power line in your backyard.
You can't start off with the tree hit his house and you go to my power line.
Well, I guess it's the appetizer for the entree.
I'm like, hey, I'm good. I don't even count that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I got the pictures of his joint. I was like,
well,
I would be sick.
How's your house? You said you were all good.
Yeah, we're good. Apparently, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't know this thing was coming. I didn't know this storm
Neither
was.
did I.
So I'm like on the couch at home, and we get like a tornado warning.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought AJ in the show a few times. A lot of people know AJ. He was at football practice, and I said, "I'm going to get him." Like, as a dad, like, hey, he's gonna be with me. I'm gonna protect him.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
If we both go at the same time.
Yeah, I'm not leaving him at the school.
Right.
I'm going to get him. And my daughter's like, you can't go out there. I was like, watch me. I'll be back in 20 minutes. And I'm trying to drive through Avon Lake. And it was like day after tomorrow. Like, roads closed, tree down, line down. Go the other way, road closed, tree down, line down. And I finally made it all the way over to the school, and I got him. And as I'm pulling in the driveway, the neighbors are all like frantic around my house. And I'm like, what is going on?
Wow.
And they said, we thought you were out of town. But they pointed, I was like, there's a whole tree on my house. Like, it was unbelievable. I don't know if you got the picture. Like, I don't care if you show the picture. But, and so, yeah, I've been dealing with that for the last day. Is literally, there's, like, the whole roof is smashed in, the gable smashed, the peak is totally smashed. Luckily, there's no tree inside the house. Like, but I got to get it pulled off today. I got to get the tree pulled off today. And hopefully there's no leaks or holes or anything. But, yeah, this is no joke when a tree falls on your house. There's a lot that goes into repairing it, fixing it.
Yeah, man, the first thing I thought about was homeowner insurance. Then it was on the gable. I said, oh, dog, you know how much they charge for them things?
This is going to be a fortune.
I was sick.
Fortune.
But it's insurance, right?
I mean, I got to pay the deductible, which ain't cheap, but the rest is covered. And it ain't even my tree. It's not even my tree. It's the neighbor's tree.
How does that work?
It's Ohio, man. You got to pay for it. It's your house. You pay for it. But I was telling Steve before the show, the interesting thing so I had one of the tree guys was looking at it last night, and he said, like, this is considered act of God. Like, it is what it is. But the tree is now, he said the tree is wounded, and this could easily happen again because this tree is massive. The only part of it fell. Part of it's still standing. And like, if this falls again, my insurance company will sue their insurance company. Like, so now this is going to turn into a thing where we got to try and get something done.
I'm going to need them to cut that down. We just had a bunch of trees cut down in my yard and on somebody else's yard. And I was like, hey, man, do you mind? You want this tree? It's like, nah, I'm cool. I was like, yeah, because I'm cutting this down too. Like,
not taking any chances.
No, like I mean, but like you said, you never think about how big trees are until they fall. And then you be like, this thing could have killed the whole house and me.
Yeah, I wasn't home. I was off picking up AJ when it fell, but my daughter and wife were home.
Oh, they probably freaked out. They probably freaked out
when that thing fell, when it hit.
I live in an apartment complex that has like an open airway, and then it's kind of circular.
Yeah.
And they're doing construction on the courtyard right now.
Yeah.
All the stuff in construction was like twirling around like it was Twister because the wind just gets caught and in circles.
Yep.
Even on just a regular windy day, and I was watching pallets, for lack of a better word, like fly up, and nothing hit my window, but it felt like an extraterrestrial is not the right word, but like out of body level experience just to see stuff that I know I'm a pretty strong guy, I think, but like I'm not picking up a pallet, and it's just whipped around like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And I told you, I was like, listen, I was like, you figure out really quickly, you feel out really fast how insignificant humans are when it comes to Mother Nature, man. When you see natural disasters, tornadoes, hurricanes, mudslides, tsunamis, it's just, it moves your whole life around like, yeah, you insignificant humans, we've been doing this for years, you're nothing.
We don't have Anthony, so if you want to hold up the picture.
Yeah, I was going to say, here's the back of the house. Can you?
Yeah, Steve will zoom in on that.
And then I
glad
can
you guys
show
are right, Jason.
the front of the
that's
house.
no joke.
That back,
That's the back. And then I can show you the front real quick.
man.
So if you're out there, we hope everyone's safe. I know there's a lot of people out here that are still dealing without power. There's over 300,000 people in the greater Cleveland area.
400.
Over 400 now?
Yeah. I think last I saw it was 375, 400, somewhere in there. We still don't have power. Like, we don't have any power. I was out last night at 9:45. The sump pump and the refrigerators are what you worry about in this instance.
Oh, y'all got a sub pump.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
we got a finished basement.
Oh.
And everyone said, put a battery backup, put a battery backup, put a battery backup. You think ADD boy put a battery backup on the sump pump? No, there's no battery backup. Jesus. So I'm watching the sky last night, and I'm just watching it rain. And I told Leslie, I'm like, I gotta go get a generator. Like, we're gonna lose both fridges, and we're gonna get water in the basement if we don't do this now. So I went and bought a generator a company I'd never heard of before. A guy gave me a deal on it because it was the last one. Couldn't get it started. And it's like 9:47, and all the big box stores close at 10. I literally had 13 minutes. I'm like, if I don't get there in 13 minutes, we're going to lose the basement and both fridges. So I go flying back up there. I'm like, this thing doesn't work. I got a Generac, which is much more, which they didn't have out. I was there 30 minutes ago. They said they were out. I walked back in, and there's 4 Generacs sitting there. I'm like, give me one of those. So took that home last night, hooked that up. I slept, I think, an hour and a half last night.
Yeah.
Just listening to the generator, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the tree. It was brutal.
Yeah, so we hope everyone out there is doing all right. Earl just got in my ear and said there's 335,000 people, according to the latest report, without power right now. I know a lot of Lakewood's out, Ohio City's out.
Yeah, Bay Village,
Avon
Lake.
Yeah,
I think Rocky River too. Bull sent us a picture of his neighbor. That house is gone. Looks like
completely
swallowed
gone.
up by the tree.
Hopefully everyone's out there safe. We appreciate you for tuning in. If you're watching this morning, we'll hopefully give you guys a 2-hour reprieve from the reality of the situation right now, which is a lot of people are without power and the refrigerator issues are legit. Make sure you throw your food out, and it is not a great situation. We're going to try to make you guys smile, laugh, and talk a little sports for 2 hours to take your minds off all of that after a quick read from Earl. What's up, man?
What's up, brother? Listen, man, I love sports. I love sports so much that I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going wherever I want. All I have to do is open up the app, dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
All right, guys, the Brandon Aiyuk saga has taken another twist and another turn. According to the latest reports from Adam Schefter, the New England Patriots are out of the equation, meaning the Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers are the 2 finalists in the running for the All-Pro wide receiver if San Francisco ends up trading him. It looked like it was New England and Cleveland. Then New England dropped out. We talked about yesterday at length how the Browns kind of fit into this and whether or not Amari Cooper had to be involved in said deal. But G. Bush, as this continues to go back and forth with the latest report from Kimberly Martin, this morning saying she heard Aiyuk just doesn't want to be a member of the Browns. Are you kind of over the Aiyuk drama? Because that's kind of what it sounds like from our pre-show meeting, G.
Yeah, man. Listen, I'm always usually there for an upgrade, man. You know, I'm the dude that goes to the car lot and be like, man, I just got this one, but they got the new one out. I'm the kid that's like, yo, them new ones is out, or I always looked at it as if the talent is better, then by all means I need to go out and upgrade the talent. But there are certain circumstances where 1 + 1 really don't be 2. Like, if I'm looking at this situation, and I've always said this, if it comes down to Amari Cooper and Brandon Aiyuk, do I think Brandon Aiyuk is a better player at this point of his career
Yeah.
Yes. Do I think he's more explosive? Yes. However, I don't think he's that much of a better player than Amari Cooper, especially if it comes to his willingness to play for the Browns. And not the fact that I'm being jaded or anything like, oh, he's picking the Steelers over the Browns, so screw him. Like, nah, that's not how I'm going. I'm just looking at it from a standpoint of I need all my people to be 1,000% ready to go and be wanting to be part of this team and realizing that just like the San Francisco 49ers believe that they're on the cusp of a Super Bowl, the Cleveland Browns believe the same thing. So we need guys to be all in. And if you're talking about Amari Cooper, I mean, he's an all-in locker room guy. He's a dude that, you know, still is productive. He doesn't give you any issues. And so for me, I just love his demeanor. I love him as a player. So the upgrade from Brandon Aiyuk is not so significant. It's not so great. I can understand if you telling me it's Justin Jefferson. Okay, well then I have
you move heaven and earth.
I'm gonna have to convince him, Justin, come on over here. But I don't know, Jason, if convincing Brandon Aiyuk is the objective here, and plus giving up a lot of stuff if he don't want to be here, knowing that you got to give him this big deal.
I am 1,000% with you on this one. That, you know, the Cavs have said this before in terms of trying to rebuild their roster. We want people who want to be here. If you want to be here, then we're going to get you out of here because you want volunteers, not hostages, like Mike Tomlin said before. And the Browns have been through this before. Like, we know now Odell did not want to be here when they traded him. He didn't want to come. And, I mean, if we're being honest, Deshaun said no. Mm-hmm. And they just kept adding zeros to the check, and then he said yes.
He said, oh, it's a little bit
but
better.
when people tell you something, listen to them. And if Brandon Aiyuk don't want to be here, okay, cool. Like, you got Amari Cooper, you're going to be fine. I do think, like, the advantage of moving on from Amari now and bringing in Aiyuk is it's almost like a baseball move of getting value for the asset. Mm-hmm. And whereas if you wait another year, that's, you know, if Amari walks, it's probably not the case. You're going to lose him for nothing. Where if you can do this deal now, you turn him into something that you have for the next few years. So I totally get why the Browns want to do it, and I totally get why the Niners want to do it, because Tyvus has told you for 6 months, Amari Cooper is perfect for that offense. And, of course, he's perfect for that offense, and he's put up monster numbers. He put up monster numbers in that offense because he's put up monster numbers in an offense. Kevin Stefanski's trying to run the San Francisco offense. I've said that and said that and said that and said that. He loves Kyle Shanahan. Stefanski loves Shanahan. He loves what they do on offense. Like, he's modeled a lot of what the Browns do on offense after San Francisco. So, of course, Cooper would be a great fit there. So it makes a lot of sense. But if Brandon Aiyuk don't want to be here, okay, cool. Like, roll with Amari. You've got a really good team, and here we go. Kick the ball off and let's play.
And you can't make this trade without the guarantee that Ayuk's going to sign an extension. So this is not a one-year rental situation at all. I agree with both of you guys. I see the benefits and the reasonings behind both sides, from Ayuk's standpoint and from the Browns' standpoint and willingness to want to acquire him. When you look at this roster, and this is what Andrew Berry's doing right now, I assume, and you say, hey, we have a championship-level roster. You have to be aggressive but not reckless. A reckless move would be trading for Aiyuk if he says, I'm not going to sign an extension here. That's a reckless move. An aggressive move is convincing him to sign an extension here, and even if he would be as Jason said, a hostage, well, if he signed an extension, he understands what he's signing up for at that point. You have guys in the peak of their prime with Miles and Chubb and Bitonio and Teller on the back end, Denzel in his prime. Like, these guys aren't going to be here in the next iteration. Cooper's at the end of his prime. Ayuk's got 4 years of legit all-pro caliber football left. But if he's not going to sign the extension, it's a no-starter for me. It's an over. It's done. Wrap. Finito. And it reminds me, G, and I know you've been in situations before, of it's like that really hot girl at the bar who you know's a little crazy, and you got to determine, is she worth the headache she's going to put you through for the end result? And in this situation, if Aiyuk is the missing piece of a Super Bowl team, then you put up with those headaches, but I don't think Aiyuk elevates the Browns from here to there by himself when you still have other questions about how can you get the ball to Brandon Aiyuk with all the other mouths to feed.
Yeah, it's like when you got a group, you don't go up to the hottest one and be like, hey, nah, man, I'm going to need to dumb. I mean, who's your friend over there? Look, I saw her in science class. She seems down to earth. Look, we can talk to her. But not you, because you already know what comes with that. Like, you might be crying by the end of the night. I don't know. You've had way too many drinks. I'm not dealing with this. The reality of the situation is, And by the way, that whole scenario that don't even happen no more. I would suggest all people out there don't meet people in bars. Don't you just?
I got the Nuggets in the bar.
Hey, listen, that worked out for you well. Was it during the daytime?
No, it was not.
Okay, well, shout out to you and Miss McNuggets. G. Bush has had one or too many bad opportunities, but I will say this:
We shot and missed a lot too.
Listen, yeah.
the best of us.
Allen Iverson shots too. If you don't really want to get down, my thing is, this is not the first time we heard it. I've been hearing like that 3, 4, 5, 6 times about him not really necessarily wanting to play. And
He said he didn't want to play for New England either.
Right.
That's why they eventually dropped out of it.
just
because
like, I'm be
he
cool
wouldn't
with
sign an
that.
extension.
And here's the thing: you gotta realize if you're gonna give somebody a bag of money, right, and you're gonna say, well, we can coerce you with money. The problem is this: what happens when it get tough?
Yeah.
Like when it get tough,
Is he in it?
and you're not getting the ball or you don't get the looks that you want to get. Look, now it's like you got buyer's remorse because you feel like I really didn't even want to be here anyway. I remember the Kevin Durant and Draymond Green situation, and they was rocking and rolling and moving. But when you hire, in the words of Jason, when you hire mercenaries, right? There's no honors amongst thieves. When Draymond Green told Kevin Durant in that huddle, we won without you anyway.
Yeah.
Like that changed the whole dynamic because guess what? He was thinking about that.
Yeah.
So now you got a dude that's outside the fold that is telling you, I ain't even really want to be here anyway. It better go good.
So if it does come down to Pittsburgh and Cleveland, and it seems like Aiyuk would prefer Pittsburgh, how would you feel if he ended up signing with a division rival or agreeing to an extension with a division rival and quote unquote choosing them over Cleveland?
It really wouldn't bother. It wouldn't bother me. I like, okay, cool. Like the Browns still have. I think the Browns have a team that could go to the Super Bowl. So, it wouldn't really, because you still have Amari Cooper. It's really not that devastating. And Cleveland ain't for everybody. Like I grew up here. I'll die here. Like I'll spend this is where I'm from. I love it here. But I get it that this isn't a destination city for a lot of people. People hear Cleveland, they still turn up their nose in all of the sports, in baseball, football, basketball. And I think the Browns are still shaking the stigma of what they've been for the last 25 years. And we know it's different. Like I see it now. I see how different it is with Andrew Berry, with Kevin Stefanski. I see the leadership. We talked about that yesterday. This is the healthiest this organization's been in 25 years. But for the outsiders, I think it takes a little bit longer for that to catch up, for them to realize that things are a little bit different in Cleveland now than they were. This isn't the same old Cleveland that it's always been before. And also for Aiyuk, I think he's in a tough spot because he's on a team that could go to the Super Bowl. So it's hard to walk away from that. No matter where he goes, it's hard to leave that. And I get he wants to get paid. I get it. I tend to wonder if his best option, play out the 5th-year option, you're probably going to get franchise tag, but you're going to make a ton of money.
Yeah.
So your money's coming, and I get it. In the NFL, you want to get paid now because you never know what injury lingers around the corner. And I've said it before. I'm pro-capitalism. Make as much money as you can when it's out there. So I get it. But he's in a tough spot because he's on a team that can go to Super Bowl so he can win right now. Do you want to go to a team who has better odds right now to go to the Super Bowl, San Francisco or Cleveland?
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Yeah.
San Francisco or Pittsburgh? San Francisco.
It's probably San Francisco is the best odds out of anyone because they're in the NFC.
Yes.
Take everything else out of the equation.
So you're almost forfeiting your best chance to win to get paid, which sometimes guys have to do that. But it has to line up. I get for him personally why it has to line up so well. And I don't know that necessarily there is a best case scenario because how are we sure that Pittsburgh is going to want to pay him?
Yeah.
When's the last time Pittsburgh paid a receiver $30 million?
That's crazy.
And if you were to bring him into Pittsburgh, like George Pickens already ain't the most mentally stable guy.
He's that girl at the bar.
Yeah.
You kind of already have one that you have to give a little special and extra treatment to. And now if you could bring Aiyuk in, he's your one. Like, Ayuk's better than Pickens. I don't think that's an argument right now. Pickens may eventually be better than Aiyuk, but Ayuk's coming off an all-pro season. He's your number one receiver. How is Pickens going to feel about going back to it, too? Like, that could end up blowing up in their face if they make that happen.
And you got 2 quarterbacks, none of which you're sold on.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So, Pickens was mad all last year because he couldn't get the rock. Like, that's just, to me, okay, if that's the reason I wouldn't care. All right, you go to Pittsburgh. Like, and
It will make them better.
No,
Yeah,
they'll be better.
absolutely.
Don't get it twisted.
They're going to be a lot better.
I just don't know. This is I don't know why I can't get a read on it. I just don't know really how good Brandon Aiyuk is. Like,
Aiyuk.
I know who I know Justin Jefferson. I know Jamar Chase. I know like the top of the food chain. But then it's like, okay, Brandon Aiyuk. I'm like,
By every advanced metric, he grades out and tests extraordinarily well. You could make the argument that it's because of the system he's in with the pieces around him which allow him to get opportunities that other top receivers don't get. I will fully buy that. But when you look at his receiving grades, his average yards per route run, his separation numbers, his yak numbers, his broken tackle numbers, his blocking, all grades out in like the top 10 percentile of the NFL. If that's a requisite conclusion because of that San Francisco offense, fine. But that dude's a baller, man. He's a baller.
Yeah, and he would make the Browns better. If he's on
He
the Browns
makes any
tomorrow,
team he's on better, yeah.
If he's here and Amari Cooper's in San Francisco, the Browns are a better team. But if he's not, if he's still in San Francisco or Pittsburgh or wherever else, and the Browns still have Amari Cooper, I still feel good about their chances. It's a really sort of strange situation where you kind of feel good either way. At least I do.
One last thing, then we're going to move on because we got Mary Kay coming up at 11:30, and we have a signing we have to talk about real quick. But have you guys been following any of the Pretty Ricky Twitter drama in terms of the Brandon Aiyuk situation?
I actually just saw a little bit of it.
no, I don't like it. You mean the R&B group?
No, it's a. I'll fill you in real quick.
Hey, look.
I'll fill you. Oh, real quick. This does apply to Brandon Aiyuk. Pretty Ricky is a random Twitter account that has a profile picture of a cartoon dog wearing a Giants hat.
Okay.
That has been saying for like a week and a half now. Aiyuk doesn't want to play for Cleveland, New England. He wants to be a Steeler. He's going to get traded to the Steelers. It's a done deal. It hasn't happened. The conspiracy theory is that all the big names, Schefter, Rappaport, Pelissaro, got scooped by this little dog, and they're now withholding this trade. I don't know if you saw Christian McCaffrey yesterday during an interview, called him a former teammate. You see all this weird speculative reporting about deals finalized, boom, 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 boom. But Pretty Ricky had it first on Twitter. And there's something about it, if he ends up a Steeler, this dude's going to blow up and take a victory lap over all of the Schefters and the Rappaports. And it would be... It would just be a very funny Twitter moment in the stratosphere of Twitter.
That's the type of shit on Twitter that just drives me crazy.
It would be very funny.
Dudes can be wrong 29 times, and the one time they're right, they're going streaking naked through the quad.
It's crazy.
And anyone who is like established can be right 29 times,
The one
and
time
that
they're
one
wrong,
time you're wrong,
crucified.
Boom.
killed for it. So I don't pay any attention to slap dudes on. I won't say the word I really want to say.
I'll show you something. It's funny. For the Browns, whether via preseason game or even more far-fetched, a regular season game.
Nah, man, come on, man. I mean, Brown. Listen, I'm trying to look at Siaki and see if he gonna. I'm trying to find out what's going on with McGuire and Isaiah Thomas. Them dudes is fringe. The Browns got a lot of dudes up front, like Mike Hall Jr. Like they just drafted him. They drafted a Siaki. Obviously, Myles Garrett, Alex Wright. You got Zadarius Smith, who's not injured seriously, will be on the roster. But if you look at it, I mean, this is me. My question is, how many defensive linemen are they going to run and go into camp? Because right now, you're looking at, I mean,
they have like 14 defensive linemen, and they're going to keep 9 or 10. I did a roster projection for Bleacher Report, and like trying to pick the ends versus the tackles they're going to keep. It's a hell of a numbers game that Andrew Berry's going to have to figure out because they got too many players who have potential, and they can't keep them all.
Like, so, I mean, I don't know how he's going to come. Like, is he going to come play over McGuire, play over Isaiah Thomas? I mean, because they got, just off bat, when you got Maurice Hurst, Shelby Harris, Tomlinson, Quentin Jefferson, and Mike Hall Jr. That's 5 D tackles right there. So, like, where are you gonna keep 4, 5, 6 ends too? I don't think it's gonna pop off like that, Jason. I think he might be here for some practice squad to get his money off.
Yeah, he's insurance policy. There's nothing more than that. You need bodies for camp. This is a nothing signing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I was unfamiliar with him, I'll be honest, before the Browns sent out that release. I wasn't quite sure who he was, but
I mean, we could get to the point where he's just something. We saw that last year where they're signing dudes off the practice squads and
for
lining them up.
offensive tackle,
Yeah,
yeah,
So but they're not at that point yet, and they've had a lot of injuries, particularly on the defensive side. But the good thing is the games are still a month away. So if you get them out of the way now, if you get some of these injuries out of the way now,
because nothing's been super serious.
No, I would imagine anyone who's out at this point should still be back in time for Dallas.
I don't, Stefanski said that, some of the starters is going to play
We're
Saturday.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, that's wild. Like,
He said 10 plays, which...
Yeah, okay, a little bit. But they do got a lot of people out. I'm wondering how much, because I'm assuming because they got joint practices coming up for the second preseason game that most people won't play in that because they'd be doing the joint practices. So,
which means the Seattle game at 10:30 on a Saturday night.
Is it in Seattle?
In Seattle.
Man, why does that? I don't like that.
It's so stupid.
I don't like that.
You ain't alone. None of them like it.
Yeah.
It's just, why would I do that?
I don't know. You're supposed to stay close to home.
And just punt. That's a gentleman's punt on this little scheduled game.
Do it 4 o'clock.
Hey, what happened to playing the Bears the last game of every preseason game, right?
Detroit, Chicago, keep it regional. Keep it a triangle.
Well, we ain't got to play nobody. We'll act like the starter's going to play, but everybody show up in hoodies and sideline hats. Yeah, I ain't doing that. I wouldn't. I wonder. I don't know how many people going to play. I'm going to see because Stefanski is. He's done it both ways a little bit, right? We play some guys, not play some guys. He might be signings like this might be like, hey, we need somebody to pick up these reps.
Well, I feel like with the Zadarius Smith injury, this is exactly a fill-in for that. Essentially, we need a six. He's 6'4", 250 pounds. Had 15 sacks at Old Dominion over 4 years. Was a productive player, but didn't. I mean, obviously went undrafted, which doesn't mean he can't play by any means, but didn't produce enough at a high enough level to get one of those 256 or 57 selections. He's a camp body. He's the Darius Smith stand-in. It's like, when Liam Neeson does the movie but was setting up the scenes, he is the Darius Smith's fill-in until Zadarius Smith comes back while those other guys are getting reps.
There's like, you're going to be the old Zadarius. You got your locks. You're going to be a stunt double right there. Just stand right there and just run upfield. Yeah, they you know what? It's wild because you talk about camp. I don't know necessarily. There's not very many positions available. Like, there's just not. I don't even know how many linebackers they're going to have. They might have 4 linebackers, if that. So we'll see.
When you mentioned the defensive end depth a second ago, G, those 2 Isaiahs, McGuire and Thomas, one of them's going to have to show up in camp and show out in the preseason to solidify a spot in the 53-man roster.
Yeah. This is...
it's real competition.
It might be a Kelly situation. Kelly is just automatically all-time practice squad. Like he's a veteran. They gave him a veteran practice squad love. But you just go down the list of them. If you got Myles Garrett, you got Alex Wright. If you got Oberonkaranko, that's 3 right there. Who am I missing? So Zadarius Smith, that's 4. Those are your rotation guys.
They only kept 4 D ends last year.
So how are they going to get on the roster?
They kept an extra D tackle, so they had 10 defensive linemen. So you got to figure out. I can't imagine they're keeping 11. That just doesn't seem plausible.
So it might not matter what they do because they're not on the roster over Obo or Alex Wright.
Right, yeah.
So they better be Reggie White or Lawrence Taylor or something.
Injuries. They're the insurance policy against injuries.
How could a guy like Marcus Haynes, who they just signed, who was on Denver's practice squad last year, when they cut down the roster from, 90 to 70 or what? Do they skip the middle one now?
Yeah, they skipped the middle one.
So 90 to 53. How many guys can you protect for practice squad, or does everyone essentially go to waivers?
No, they...
I just thought I should have given you time to prepare.
I don't remember now. There's certain ways to do certain deals. Like they did something creative with
Mo Hurst last year.
That's not the one I was thinking of.
Michael Dunn.
They did something with Michael Dunn where they snuck him onto the practice squad basically and then re-added him right away. And I'm not as familiar with all of the levers that you can do. But I think it's is it 14? I know they expanded the practice squad in COVID. It's a big number now. It's a big number you can carry on practice squad. I mean, maybe he's a guy if he shows something in these next couple of weeks.
I mean, it's a lot of names. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen between DTR and Huntley.
Yeah. Do you think they'll keep 3 quarterbacks on the?
I think DTR is making this team.
So that's like 3 then.
Yeah, I think DTR is making it.
I don't think he makes it through practice. You can't. He'd get clicked off waivers. You try to put him on practice.
Oh yeah, no. Zach, obviously Zach Jackson's watched every camp. We can ask Mary Kay about it coming up too. Zach said DTR is beating him by 7 touchdowns right now. He's made every throw, and Huntley hasn't made any. So if you're looking at we're talking about the third quarterback here, but Zach says DTR's had a great camp, and I've thought all along he was going to make it.
He showed promise in that Denver game before the concussion. We talked about it. He made that one specific throw to Amari Cooper on the out route on the right side towards the front of your TV screen.
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
And it was like he stood in the face of pressure. It was a little back foot kind of fadeaway throw, but he let it develop. And
it felt to me like it was coming. He was starting to figure it out, and then gets the concussion, and that's it.
And it allowed us to get the Joe Flacco experience,
right,
which turned out, in hindsight, to be the most fulfilling version of the backup quarterback situation. I can't imagine DTR would have played to that level.
No.
But
and I also think, again, he got hurt when he came back and played just a couple of snaps. He got hurt again. I think injuries are a concern with him.
He's tiny.
Period. Yeah, he's small. But as a third quarterback, I think he's making it over Tyler Huntley.
So you got that's I don't know what's going on with Siaki Ika. The only thing that helps him is Dalvin Tomlinson is a true nose tackle, and Siaki Ika is too. So, but he was healthy scratches last year, so I don't know what's going on. And then the last linebacker position, Tony Fields. You think Devin Bush looked like he made a couple plays?
He's made a couple plays that I've seen.
We're going to talk about him in the preseason thing because he's one of the guys I have circled as, you need to play, you need to show me something.
Yeah, like him, Nathaniel Watson.
He's getting a lot of reps right now.
Yeah.
Earl, I see you nodding. Does that mean we have the Mary Kay ready?
The Mary Kay Cabot. The.
We doing a read and bringing her in?
Let's do it. This next segment is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for small businesses, you want to find the quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn just isn't about a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions may apply.
And with that, let's welcome in the Hall of Fame beat writer for the Cleveland Browns. It is Mary Kay Cabot. Mary Kay, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys. How you doing?
We are doing well. Mary Kay, we have to ask you about what we started the show with, and that is the latest on the Brandon Aiyuk rumors. The last thing we heard this morning on ESPN was that Aiyuk doesn't necessarily want to be a member of the Cleveland Browns, is unwilling to sign an extension here. I'm curious, have you heard the same thing that we've heard Kimberly Martin report in that regard to the next step in this Brandon Aiyuk saga?
You know, I have been hearing similar things to that for the past several days, but it never got to the point where I felt comfortable writing that because things are not always exactly what they seem. So I think I wanted to proceed with a little bit of caution on that. And the other thing to note is, even though it does seem like there's momentum with Pittsburgh and he really wants to play there and he always has, if you remember back, Deshaun Watson didn't want to play in Cleveland until all of a sudden he did. So I don't know that the Browns are out of it yet. It seems like it's trending that way, that the Steelers might end up with him. But to say that he, per se, didn't want to play here, I think we just need to be a little bit cautious about that.
I was asking Mike and Jason about this. When you look at it from a perspective, Mary Kay, you got a guy like Amari Cooper who's really, really a solid receiver, great in the locker room, very productive. If they do or were going to go after Brandon Aiyuk, how much better is Brandon Aiyuk than Amari Cooper in your opinion? And do you believe that the Browns think it's a massive upgrade, or is it just something that they're doing in order just to kick the tires a little bit to see if they can get a small upgrade in here?
It's really not necessarily an upgrade situation at all, because Amari Cooper is obviously one of the best receivers in the NFL, and he's a 5-time Pro Bowler, and his statistics are better than Brandon Aiyuk's over the length of his career, obviously. So it's really not about upgrading the position. It's about long term. It's about having a young guy in his prime and paying him those big bucks, as opposed to paying Amari Cooper whatever he's going to want when this season is over, or if they revisit an extension at some point during the season. The top receivers in the NFL are making close to $30 million a year. Do you want to pay that to a guy who's 31? Or do you want to invest that kind of money in a younger 26-year-old receiver? That's what it was about, more so than any kind of an upgrade.
Mary Kay, do you think there's any sort of conversation that needs to be had or repairs made if this doesn't work, given that Amari's name has been thrown out there so often now in this? If he is back, is there any conversation that Kevin or AB need to have with him, or do you think it's just standard business and he knows the score by now?
Well, he does know the score by now, but by the same token, they will have that conversation with him. That's how they do business here. They had that conversation with him when he signed his restructuring. So that's what you do. He knows it's a business. He and Andrew Berry talked about the fact that this is not personal, that they had to do what they had to do. They had to find him. Then he had to hold out. So they know what it's all about. And I do think Amari will be able to set this aside and get back to playing great football, which is what he's always done throughout his entire career.
Mary Kay, you spent the entirety of training camp at the Greenbrier with the Browns. You are at every practice you're allowed to be at, and have seen as much Deshaun Watson throws in person this offseason as anyone in the world outside of a member of the Browns staff. So in your opinion, how has Deshaun's repaired right shoulder and arm looked so far throughout the part of training camp you've been able to witness?
You know, at times it's looked great. At times he's looked like he's had all the accuracy and all the velocity and everything that he needs. Other times the passes have been a little bit off here and there. But I think that's what you want to expect from somebody coming off fractured shoulder surgery and torn labrum surgery. For anybody to expect that he was going to look perfect on every single throw 8 months out of surgery in training camp, when he's ramping up and trying to get his confidence back and trying to get his arm strength back, trying to get the stamina in the muscles and all of that back, then I think that was probably a little bit of folly to think that it was going to be perfect. So I think maybe we need to give him a little bit of grace on some of the throws that aren't exactly how he wants them to be. He's got 1 month to get ready for this season. And I think that he seems to be on pace to be ready to go against the Cowboys September 8th from everything that I can tell and see. And I just think that expecting perfection right now is a little bit too much.
Mary Kay, if Alex Wright had to step in right now and start at defensive end opposite of Myles Garrett, how do you think he'll fare?
Well, I think Alex will bump up in the rotation, but I think Obo Okoronkwo will be the next man up after Z. And of course, he's already part of the rotation. But I think that Alex is ready to take his game to the next level. He had 5 sacks last year. He's really been taking a whole lot of coaching from Myles Garrett, which I think is great. And I think both he and Isaiah McGuire are both ready to step up and show that they belong out there in this rotation and getting some reps.
Mary Kay, you talked about Deshaun Watson. You know, I watch your weekly or daily wrap up from camp, and I was taking a look at that yesterday, and you said something that was very interesting. You talked about, the last couple of days in the team period, it just hasn't looked very sharp, very crisp, and you were kind of surprised a little bit that they said that Jameis Winston is going to play, Deshaun's not going to play. I was sitting here talking to Jason, and I was like, well, next game they're going to be playing the inter squad scrimmages with another team, so chances are they probably won't play week 2. That sets us all to week, the preseason game number 3, in which they're playing Seattle, and I don't know how I feel about that, doing that on the road outside of those. But my point is, do you believe that he should have been playing? Were you a little, kind of scratching your head a little bit in terms of not putting him out there for a couple plays with the rest of the starters?
Actually, no, that didn't surprise me at all. I was not surprised by that. I never expected him to play in a preseason game until Seattle. We know he's not going to play against Minnesota. I never thought he would play in this first game. So not surprised by that. And I do think that he'll probably get plenty of good work against the Minnesota Vikings. Of course, this means that if they do play him in Seattle, he will only have had probably 2, maybe 3 series of work before he has to go out there and face the Dallas Cowboys. So he's going to have to make sure that he's getting everything that he needs in those joint practices and that the Browns defense is getting him ready to prepare for the season. One good thing about that for him is that when the Browns defenders are back out in full force, when you've got Miles out there and you've got Z and you've got Dalvin and Shelby and all of those guys coming after you, putting the heat on, Quentin Jefferson coming up the middle and from the edges, he should be pretty ready for the season. He should know how fast that ball has to come out and how quick it's going to have to get there and be on point when you've got Denzel and Martin Emerson and those guys in the back end. So he gets to work against one of the best defenses in the NFL. That's going to help him be battle tested because he really isn't going to get those live reps in the games very much.
I actually want to go back to Aiyuk for 1 second because you've covered this league. You know this league better than anybody. Number one, I don't believe the Steelers are going to pay a receiver $30 million. I don't think I was just trying to look it up real quick. I think Antonio Brown is the most money they've ever given a receiver. That was like $17 million average annual value. I'd be shocked if they did this deal and gave him $30 million. I'm wondering if you agree with that or if you think I'm wrong. And then secondly, the thing I asked yesterday was, I'm not following San Francisco's urgency on this on August 7th or 8th, whatever today's date is now. Why are they in such a rush to get clarity on this now? Is it just to get resolution on it? It just seems like they're almost like pushing this ahead, like telling them, go ahead, if you can find a better deal, go get it. I'm just a little bit curious at how aggressive the Niners seem to be on this.
Well, first of all, as far as the Steelers are concerned, if they hope to put forth a package that Brandon Aiyuk and his agent are going to accept, it's going to have to be close to $30 million a year. That's the whole reason why he's holding in right now, is because he wants the kind of money that everybody else is getting. There are 4 receivers right now that are north of $30 million. He wants something close to that, or a structure of a deal that is acceptable to him. Maybe it's front loaded so that he's making an average of $30 million in the first 3 years. And then beyond that, it's not as much, but he still makes that 30 for all intents and purposes in the early part of the deal. So there are different ways that you can structure it that would probably make him happy. And then as far as the 49ers are concerned, they have a disgruntled receiver holding in, not practicing, and holding back their offense right now. And they want to move on. It's a high-stakes season for the 49ers, just like it is for the Cleveland Browns and several other teams that hope to go out and win a Super Bowl. And if you have your number one receiver who had more than 1,300 yards last year, kind of being a distraction, holding in, being out on the sidelines and not practicing, it's not helping. I mean, it's time to almost start game planning. You have to be thinking about September 8th. You have to be thinking about your opener right now, and he's not even in uniform. So let's just say they were able to make the deal with the Cleveland Browns. You could plug Amari Cooper in tomorrow and be off to the races with him because he's so good at what he does. And I think that's what they want to do. They want to move forward. They know this isn't going anywhere. They're at a complete contract impasse, and they want to get over the hump.
So given what you know of the Steelers, can you envision them signing him to a $30 million deal, $30 million per year?
Well, the last time they paid a receiver that much, Antonio Brown, that you're talking about, I mean, the receiver market has absolutely exploded since then. And the numbers really sound high to us and astronomical and unfathomable in some cases. But that's the going rate nowadays. And even when Amari comes out next year, and when he hits free agency or tries to renegotiate with the Browns, he's going to have that number 30 in his mind. I don't know if he's going to get it, but that's what they're all aspiring to now, especially those younger guys. So I don't know if the Steelers are going to be able to pay it, but if they want to pull off the deal, they're probably going to have to come very close. We'll see if it actually happens, and you never know. That's why you can never say never until they sign on the dotted line, because things can fall through somewhere else, and it gives rise to another situation.
Speaking of young receivers, Mary Kay, every time we see videos from training camp, it seems like Cedric Tillman's out there making plays. I know he had an incredible 50-yard touchdown catch yesterday. It was more of a great route than a great catch, but 50-yard touchdown from, I think, Jameis Winston. Deshaun threw it. I think that was Deshaun. But Has he jumped out in person as much as he's jumped out on some of these clips we get to see from social media in terms of making that sophomore year leap?
Yes, he really has looked really good. He's gotten behind the defense a number of times on those deep balls. I've probably seen him catch 6 of those already during this training camp. So you are seeing that. And the thing about said now is that he's really concentrating through the catch. He's looking it in. He's keeping his eyes on the ball. He's staying very focused. He's worked so much harder than he even did last year. He knows how to be a pro. And of course, he's learned some of that from Amari and some of the other guys here. But he really has elevated his game. And I think you're going to see a lot more of said this season. And, that might be another reason why they felt like possibly they could, if this was all the way that I believe it went down, that possibly they could let Amari go and bring in a Brandon Aiyuk, because they do have some emerging young receivers like said.
Mary Kay, what's up? What's up with Jed Wills? I ain't heard much from Jed. I think Jed Wills is one of the pieces that he's a dude that you really don't hear too much about. But I think if he plays at a high level, it could really elevate what the Browns want to do, especially in the passing game, in his pass protection with Deshaun Watson. What's the update on Jed Wills? And do you think we'll see him this preseason in any preseason games?
Well, he's still on active, physically unable to perform. That's why we haven't heard anything about him yet, because he hasn't been able to practice yet. So James Hudson has still been out there at left tackle. And frankly, I don't know if Jed Wills is going to be able to start the season. We haven't seen him practice at all. And it's probably going to take him a little while to get himself back in the flow of things once he is able to get out there. So I don't know about him for the opener. You might end up having to see James Hudson, because we haven't seen Jack Conklin either. And Jack can move in over at left tackle if need be, but he's not practicing yet either. So that situation is a little bit fluid, but they do feel good about James if it comes to that.
Right before we brought you on, we were talking about the quarterbacks, and I'm curious if you think they're going to carry 3, and if they do, why it'll be DTR. I'm joking, but I'm not. I think he makes the team. I've thought that all along, but I'm wondering, you know more than me. Do you think they carry 3, and is DTR ahead of Huntley right now, or did they bring Huntley here for a reason?
It's tough to say. I think that's a really intriguing battle as they go through these preseason games. And as I've been watching Tyler Huntley practice, he looks to me like a guy that you should find something for him to do on this football team. I think DTR is going to make it as the third quarterback if they keep 3. If not, if he happens to land on the practice squad, I guess they would probably take the risk of losing him in that scenario, and they really don't want to do that. He looks really good right now. But it just seems to me that there should be some kind of, or could be some kind of a role as some kind of a gadget player, special teams player, kickoff. Tyler Huntley is some kind of a weapon in my mind. And I don't know if anyone's really unlocked what he can really do for a football team. But when you have him in your building, I think you should explore every avenue to see if you can do some things with him that maybe people haven't tried yet.
Who is the sneaker on this team? Who's the quarterback sneaker? Because obviously it was Jacoby, and then it was Harrison Bryant. They don't want to put Deshaun in that situation, it appears, up until this point. Now I think going forward, certainly they won't. Is it Jameis, or do you have to carry Tyler for that role? I don't know if Jameis has really done this much.
He's big, though.
He is big. And then obviously there's no Bryant. I'm just wondering, who's the sneaker this year?
We haven't seen it, so I don't know what they have up their sleeve in that regard. I guess Jameis could do it. I'm sure that Tyler could probably do it as well. And when I'm throwing this out there about Tyler, I don't necessarily believe that they will keep him around as sort of an all-purpose weapon for special teams, returns, whatever else he can do. Mm-hmm. A little bit of, some, I don't know if he can really catch the ball, but if he could catch the ball, I think he'd be interesting in the backfield as sort of maybe a little bit of a Deebo Samuel type of player. I don't know that they'll do it, but it's something that he's just so fast and, and just has so many different things that he can do. I'm just intrigued. And if they let him go, I feel like somebody else is going to figure it out.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I was thinking, I was trying to come up with the Saints. Who's the Saints guy?
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill. Are you trying to describe Taysom Hill in a way?
Yeah, in a way, yes. Slash whatever, So again, I don't know if that's in the cards at all. I asked Kevin about that a couple of weeks ago. Would you keep him on the team? And I asked, as something other than a quarterback. I didn't mean not quarterback at all, but just in addition to that, I mean, could you find some things for him to do? And I don't know. I could
I'm
be
sure he
completely
answered it thoroughly, right?
Of course he did. I was listening to Mike Tomlin's press conference today, and boy, it's a whole different world over there in terms of getting answers out of the coach.
You take it, you leave it. It's all the same. Mary Kay, we'll get you out of here on this one, but the twists and turns in the new stadium plans for the Browns have seemingly come to a conclusion. Northeast Ohio Transit Blog reported earlier this week that a new dome in Brook Park is the move. It'll cost the dome plus the development $3.6 billion. When you look at how this is all kind of played out, if that is, and the reporting is correct, if that is the final destination, a dome in Brook Park, what do you make of this entire saga that has led us to where we are at today?
Well, it just seems like it took a turn at some point. It really felt to me like everything was renovation, renovation, renovation. I go to those owners' meetings and talk to the Haslams about it. And, even at this time last year in March, it was all about renovation. That was the plan. That's where they were going. And it was full steam ahead with that. And then at some point, the tide turned and the dome became what seems to me now like more of a preferred option to them. They haven't said that yet, but that seems the way that it's headed. So things changed. They got the opportunity to purchase this land, and they saw the wisdom in trying to build this complex, not just a stadium, but a whole community and business enterprise out there. And I think that they want some of what's going on in some of these other cities. Now, of course, it's a matter of trying to figure out a way to make it happen and to pay for it, but it seems like that's what they really want.
I think it was all posturing. I think this was the plan from the start. I think it was all posturing to make it look like they've exhausted every option to try and garner some goodwill, but I think this was their plan from the start, was a dome.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know if that's the case, just because, I've been shown renderings of the renovation and talked to people about the renovation all along. And it really did seem like that's what they were going to do. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes in the chess match of stadium building, but I don't know. It seems to me that it took a turn at some point, and the turn arrived at Brook Park.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Mary Kay, thank you so much for spending some time with us today here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Make sure to follow Mary Kay on Twitter, read her work at cleveland.com, and we'll talk to you soon, Mary Kay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Kay.
Thank you. Take care.
Awesome. Cedric Tillman's the guy that's popped off the screen. As she mentioned, there are a few more that have continued to pop off. Tyler Huntley was not on my bingo card of players Mary Kay was going to tell us to
I was surprised
keep
by
an
that.
eye on.
I was a little surprised by that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if Zach was telling you that DTR was stealing the show as the
In terms of the throws, she's talking about using them in a much different
Just
in a different way.
Just different capacity.
Zach thought that DTR was out throwing Tyler, but she was talking about using them in returns and out of the backfield and a little bit of everything.
Taysom. I mean, Deebo Samuel is the weapon of all weapons. I never in a million years thought we would ever hear on this program Deebo Samuel be compared to Tyler Huntley, or Tyler Huntley be asked to be used in the role that Deebo is used in the San Francisco offense. So Mary Kay's onto something, then the Browns got a weapon.
Well, I do think that the Browns like to get creative. We've seen that out of Kevin.
That's the one thing I do like. They get gadget plays. It's a catch-22 in Cleveland.
You hate when they don't work, G. No one works harder than you.
Hey.
Hold on.
Hey.
When these don't work, nobody comes in and is more hot about it than you.
Hey, when they don't work, that's part of the game.
Clip this. I want to play back for G.
Yeah.
Next time that they run a gadget play that doesn't work, I
now-
want to play.
54 a.m. Jason, I got you, man.
Now you do a reverse throwback pass with Jacoby Brissett when he came cold off the bench. I don't know
On
how.
4th and 1.
On 4th and 1, that's wild. Like, come on, bro. But all the other, listen, I like some of his stuff.
The Amari Cooper interception.
Oh,
Even Kevin said as soon as that ball was in the air, he thought, "Oh, what are you doing?"
Amari
Elijah
is-
Moore
I don't-
reverses last year.
Yeah. Oh Lord.
Oh, listen.
When's the last gadget? The last gadget play that worked that I could think of right now, top of my head, was the fake sneak Harrison Bryant pitched to Kareem Hunt that led to a touchdown.
Yeah. Like
So I've heard so far that during camp, it's been a lot of RPOs, a lot of wide receivers in motion, things that we really didn't see last year. But, last year was a lot of talk about the gadget plays and Elijah Moore being used in all these different roles. Well, that hasn't been the case. From everybody that's been at camp, I've been told that it's been little to no gadget plays being installed. Just a lot more motion and RPOs.
But also, they're not
showing you that.
They're
in
not
camp,
going to
though,
show that
yeah.
when we're standing there.
And then we had to find out that Elijah Moore was not that. They tried to he looked like he should be Percy Harvin. He looked like, okay, well, maybe he got that Deebo Samuel gene. No, he doesn't. We found out, he does not have vision like that, and he's not running past nobody.
And first off, Deebo's built like a running back.
Yeah.
Elijah Moore's a relatively normal size, if not on the smaller side of receivers.
He's small.
Yeah,
Deebo's built like a freaking tank. To think that Elijah Moore's body could withstand the toll that Deebo's did based off the hits he was taking because of his carries, the screens, the jet sweeps, that was never feasible in my mind.
It's wearing on him right now. He had another concussion. They ain't even been hitting like that. You know what I'm saying? That's not a role you want.
He's had 2 legit concussions and 2 concussion protocol appearances that did not result in actual concussions. So that's something we're going to have to monitor throughout the season.
Yeah.
Speaking of trick plays in camp, Earl, can I tell you a story about when I was covering high school football in Texas real quick?
Of course.
I was covering the Franklin Lions, who won 3 state championships when I was there.
Lions.
Dominant. They won 36 straight games. A couple of dudes playing D1 football now. Coach Fannin, my guy. What's up, Coach?
Where was that? Where was that school? Where is it?
In Franklin, Texas.
But what's that near?
It's 3A.
Okay.
It's not the big.
Because I actually know a lot of the Texas high schools.
It's 3A football. They run the wing tee. They throw 1 pass a game.
All right, never mind.
Is this North Texas?
It's
Houston?
central. It's in between Austin and College Station.
Okay.
So they got their starting running back that is at Baylor now. Their quarterback, whatever. They had some athletes.
Yeah.
They ran the wing tee and the triple option. They did not throw the ball whatsoever. As they were going for their 2nd straight state championship, I went up to do a preview story on them. I was real tight with the coach. We covered them closely because they won every game. And he looked at me in the eyes and goes, "Mike, we're about to practice a halfback throw. If there's a semblance of this on the video, you're losing all access to it. I will never talk to you again." He let me come in. I got to sit in the locker room. I got to go through film. He's like, "If this trick play that we're putting in for this game, state championship, gets on film in even the slightest capacity, you're done." So, of course, I didn't put it on. They win that game by 7 points. What was the winning touchdown? The halfback pass
throw.
they put in. 4th quarter, 3rd and 6, called it to perfection. And as soon as they did it, he didn't look at me after, but in my head, I'm like, Coach Fannon's definitely looking for me on the sidelines. I told you this was going to work. So that's why you don't see those gadget plays in practice.
I thought you was going to troll and be like, you know what I did? I put that right on tape. Got picked off in the end zone.
That would have been funny, but a lot less more,
right.
A lot worse of an outcome. They ended up winning, so kudos to them. But, yeah. All right, Earl, you ready to talk a little preseason football?
Yeah, let's get this done. So, of course, man, I love sports. I love them so much that I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going wherever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
So the Browns open up the preseason this weekend against Green Bay, 4:25 kickoff. And Jordan Love's playing. Deshaun Watson's not. But Kevin Stefanski yesterday said some of the Browns starters, or key contributors is a better way to phrase it, could play about 10 plays on Saturday. So I'm curious, in your mind, who do you think some of the guys he's referring to are that could see some limited but traditional game reps in a preseason situation here?
I don't think it's going to be the offensive line because I think you wait for Deshaun for that.
Mm-hmm. I made a list.
What's your list?
Guys I think who will actually play roles on the team that will play 10-ish preseason snaps.
Yeah.
Alex, right?
Yeah. See, I was going straight starters.
Yeah, and I guess that's well,
you cheated.
Hear me
you
out.
Cheated.
I don't think any starters play. Like, I don't think Jerry Judy's playing with the hamstring. I don't think he's
Right.
Elijah Moore coming off the concussion. I'd be shocked if he played.
No.
Cooper's not going to play. No need to.
No.
I don't think Njoku, if he wants to play 10 plays, I'm sure Stefanski would let him, but I don't think he'll play 10. No one on the offense. From a defensive standpoint, Emerson, I thought, may be the only traditional starter, and Thornhill, even though I know he missed practice yesterday with an illness, trying to work his way back from the calf, get some reads, and the communication on the secondary, I thought those two were the only two that could actually play.
I think Devin Bush is gonna be a starter, and he's gonna play.
He was on my list, but I didn't think he's gonna be a starter. They're only starting 2 linebackers.
I mean, if it's run,
As,
right?
as their third linebacker.
Yeah, I
I
think Bush plays. I mean, would you count Ronnie Hickman?
The other guy, here's the guys I listed.
Yeah, Ronnie Hickman's gonna play.
I had Wright, Ogbo, Mike Hall Jr., who I'm most excited to see on Saturday, Devin Bush, Hickman, Mitchell, Cedric Tillman, who we
Yeah.
just mentioned.
Yeah.
David Bell's going to get a chance to prove himself. Jamari Thrash is a rookie.
Yep.
And Micah Woods. Those are the guys who.
I don't know if I would play Ogbo. But everyone else on that list, I think, is. I would agree
10
with.
plays.
I would. You right. I wouldn't play Ogbo. He just had he tore a pec last year. Nah, give me Thomas. Give me Wyatt,
just signed that
Thomas.
guy.
You just signed that dude. I'll give Alex Wright some minutes. You know what I'm saying? I play Ika. I will play Hall.
Oh, Ika's for sure playing.
Ika has to
Ika's
play.
playing.
He's playing, getting
You
all the
remember
reps.
Hey, and real quick to Ika, Jordan Elliott played fourth quarter snaps in the Hall of Fame game last year against the Jets. Do you remember that?
They was trying to get him in shape, too.
And we all came back and said, like, this don't look good for Jordan Elliott if he's playing like fourth quarter snaps in the Hall of Fame game. And he turned out to have a great season for what we expected. So maybe Ika, in a similar vein,
You know
can
what?
follow in those footsteps.
Let me tell you what. If you're a D lineman and you playing in the first preseason game and you playing all them reps, you are over there sounding like Darth Vader. Bro, you having an asthma attack. Bro, you cannot breathe, bro. You're just like trying to get air. You're looking at the coach like, why is you doing this to me? It's like punishing.
What did I do to you?
Like, it's like when your dog do something like chew up your couch and they'd be like, what are you doing? I didn't chew that couch up. You did chew it. He looking at you like, what are you talking about? I'm like, Decoy, what did I do to you, bro? You got me out here taking 40, 50 snaps. Bro, you can die out there. Like, you can just shrivel up. You are not ready for them reps. You are not. You just can't even get in the stance. Like, nah, I'm going to pull
So you
him.
think Ika plays 30, 40 snaps?
Bro, they're going to try to get him. They're going to give him his money's worth, and it's going to be rough. They're going to use him on pass downs because, look, they're not putting anything. They're not scheming nothing. They're going to go out here and pass rush. Can you imagine trying to pass rush 2 back-to-back plays for Ika, and he ain't game ready? Nah, bro.
What's up, bro?
I think Jamari Thrash and Michael Woods are going to get a lot of run. It'll be interesting to see how much run they get with the second and the third string unit, but I expect those two dudes to be on the field a lot.
Oh, what's his name? I forgot about him. He's been catching deep balls.
It's Jason's guy.
What's his name?
Matt Landers, baby.
Matt Landers.
I told you.
Is going to get some tick. Earl had to admit, he said, uh-oh, Mike Woods. I've been preaching on Mike Woods for a minute. Matt Landers out here running 4.3. being
And 6'5".
6'5". Listen.
Matt Landers going to get some reps.
He's going to get some touches. Like, you know, if it's DTR will spot shadow you. Like, he did the same thing to old boy. We've never heard of
Austin
him again.
Watkins, yeah.
Where is he at?
Dillard's.
Yeah, he's at Kaufman's right now. He
Is,
is nowhere to be found.
is there a chance when Matt Landers catches a 73-yard touchdown pass from DTR that G. Bush is going to come in on Monday and
Facts.
say, Matt Landers needs a run?
Hey,
David Bell? Minimum.
David-
No, it is Matt Landers'
Got to
time.
find a role for Matt Landers.
Bro, you got to play him at safety. You got to do something. Make him run down on kickoff.
He's
Put him-
Debo Samuel
these-
2.0.
Bro,
He's Tyler Huntley 2.0.
Book it. If he come you know how long it's been since we had a big receiver running past people? Like, come on.
Kevin Stefanski said that he pretty much seems to have a good understanding of what they're trying to do. He's always in the right spot. He's picking up what they're putting down, and he's just going out there and executing the play. Now,
That's how you start. That's how you start the rumor, Earl. That's how it starts right there.
Last year we was on the same type of time. All I'm saying is if you 6'4" and you running like a 4.3, I mean a 4.4 40, like it's hard to ignore those measurements and intangibles and say, well, he shouldn't earn a spot on this roster, right?
I mean, it's crazy he wasn't a better college player with those.
But
Didn't he bounce around in college?
Yeah, I thought he went. Didn't he go to like Arkansas? Didn't
Yeah, he
something else?
Arkansas, went to 3 different schools, I believe.
Oh, by the way, but he's definitely not making the roster though. Let's be clear.
Also, remember G saying that when G's posturing for him, posturing to make the roster.
Right.
Matt Lander, it's going to be at David Bell's expense, G.
Bro.
I see the future on this.
Bro, he is. Do you know how hard it is to make the Browns roster this year?
Yeah, I did the exercise.
That's
There's
crazy.
some good players who are going to not make the 53-man roster.
For the first, and this is hard because that was crazy. Pause. My fault. This is difficult because
You just paused yourself on something that wasn't even that bad.
yeah, it was. But it was the emphasis. Like I really went in on the hardness.
You went extra hard.
Yeah. But no. This is hard for us, Jason, because we haven't seen a roster where we got people that actually could be good.
They're going to cut good players, G.
Right, they're cutting good people.
Good players.
But we can use that.
They're going to be cutting guys who could have started on this team 7 years ago.
It's like saving newspaper clippings, but I could have used that for something. This corn butterer over here, I got this air fryer. It's still old, but I can use it.
You know what would be a fun exercise on the cuts is, I'm serious, look at who they cut. Could they have started on the Browns in 2017?
I'm going to add it to my list.
2018.
That's a great one.
Because I guarantee you there are guys who are going to get cut who would have been starters on those teams.
Think about it. The 1 year we only had Terrell Pryor.
I know. Terrell Pryor ain't making this team. Like he would not make this team.
Terrell Pryor had 1,000 yards and was playing quarterback, just taking wild snap. It was crazy. He was the best player we had.
Yeah.
That's on my list. We'll do that day.
Yeah.
We'll do it
Yeah, it's
the
going to
day
be some people out there that we actually get rid of that's good. And it's tough. It's difficult to deal with. McNuggets is a new day.
Yeah. No, listen.
Elijah Moore on that team would have 1,300 yards.
Well, he's not getting cut.
Man, he's taking direct snaps. This dude's doing reverses by
think about
himself.
that. Am I wrong? Does Terrell Pryor make this team? Terrell Pryor in his prime, whatever that was, does he make this Browns 53? I don't think he does.
Nah, not at receiver.
I don't think he does.
I mean,
He can be the backup tight end. That's the one spot they're not great at. Tight end. Outside of
but he
Njoku.
can't block nobody.
Well, I'm just saying, if you said not receiver, I'm trying to fit him in somewhere else.
Nah, he wouldn't.
Maybe over David Bell. I guess he probably would have made the team over David Bell.
But is Bell a lock?
No.
That's my point. You look at the receiver room. Cooper lock, Judy lock, Moore lock, Tillman lock.
Yeah.
You just drafted Thrash. I'm not saying he's for sure a lock, but
How many receivers they keep him?
5 or 6.
Probably.
You have 4 for sure.
I would think 6, but I could be wrong. It may
So
be 5.
Thrash and Bell, Michael Woods, Matt Landers has something to say about that.
You know how good they gotta be to surpass a 3rd round pick. David Bell, like that.
2 years ago versus Jamari Thrash is a 5th round.
Well,
and Thrash brings a different skill set.
But I think Thrash gonna make the team.
So that's 5. So Bell's on the top bucket 6.
They got it. When Kevin Stefanski was like, he personally said, I like David Bell. And be truthful, David Bell ain't explosive, but every time David Bell get in the game, catch the ball. He ain't show me nothing like he
had
drops.
a good week 18.
Yeah.
Because of their weakness at tight end, I think they can carry 6 receivers. I could be wrong.
I think 6 is the number they usually carried as well, so it wouldn't surprise
And then
me.
3 tight ends?
Njoku, Atkins, and then Gio Ricci, who's more of a blocking guy, who could be their de facto fullback with Nick Harris out.
Ain't no spots. And then you got 10. So
You got 9 or 10 offensive linemen.
and they're gonna try to sneak Dunn back on the practice squad.
Dunn could be up for cuts again. I don't know how
He
they're gonna do
is.
that.
Like they got Whippler.
Well, you look at their offensive line real quick. You got your 5 starters plus the extra offensive tackle, whoever you want to start. So you got those 6. You just drafted Zinter.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going anywhere.
Hudson,
Whippler
because he's the backup center too.
Yeah.
That's 9.
That's 9.
That's
And
9.
then you have of the next guys for this last spot, Dunn, Jermaine Ifedi, who they signed,
They just signed him.
Hakeem Adeniji, who they signed as another swing tackle, plus the other camp bodies they have brought in to help. either a Fetty, who's a former first-round pick, Dunn, who's been a valuable backup, or a Hakeem Adeniji, who's bounced around. Like, two of those guys probably getting cut.
Yeah.
Depends if they want extra flexibility as a tackle or a guard.
4 running backs: Chubb, Hines, Ford, and Foreman.
And then Pierre Strong gets cut. There's Pierre Strong.
And then Pierre Strong.
But he's a great special teamser guy, yeah. Like, they have some legitimately difficult decisions to make.
That's wild. Yeah, I think that you get 4 linebackers, but don't they have a linebacker that plays special teams all the time? His name
Tony
Adams?
Fields.
Well, Tony Fields is that guy.
Oh, they had Kanasic last year.
Yeah.
And Matt Adams. But
And
I think
Adams.
Adams left. I think he was a DB.
So you might have 4 linebackers, and then
And you have so many secondary guys.
who's making?
There's just not extra spots that keep a guy you really like.
How did they? And what are they doing with Kate York? Is he back on the practice squad? How do they?
He'll be practice. If anything, he'll be practice squad.
And then he'll get scooped up by somebody.
Maybe. I mean, he was on practice squad all last year, and nobody picked him up.
Didn't the Giants or Tennessee pick him up for one game?
Did they? I don't remember.
Cut him.
Did
He
they?
was on Tennessee and New York.
He's one of those guys when a kicker struggles in week 2 and gets cut,
He'll get a call.
somebody will call him.
Yeah.
Probably, but he'll probably be there until then.
Do you have any faith he'll ever be a consistent NFL kicker?
Yes.
I have a weird feeling that, like, in 4 or 5 years, like, when the new dome opens up, Katie York will be one of the better kickers in football.
I think he's got some mental he's got to clear through, and if he can do that, yes, I think he could be a very good kicker in the NFL still.
Man, well, at least they get the dome up and popping. Shout out to the dome. I actually, to be truthful, can't believe it. Like, I never thought I would see a dome in Cleveland, and now it's going to happen.
I told Mike they've been talking about a dome since the 80s.
Yeah.
The 80s. And that was that never got off the ground. It was a disaster. But it was the 80s when they were talking about a dual-purpose dome for the Browns and the Indians to share before Gateway.
Now,
It's like casinos.
Yeah.
It was like casinos. There were people trying to get casinos passed in Ohio for decades.
Well,
And then Dan Gilbert came along and hammered it through.
weed is now legal. Recreational weed is. You could buy it legally in Ohio now. And that's something that there was the guy who waited in line. I saw it on Twitter. The first guy to buy weed legally in Ohio, recreational weed, waited in line for like 53 hours to be the first one to do it. And he was crying. He said, I never thought this day would come to be able to recreationally buy weed.
in terms of, I go back and look at the historical sense of it. One of the miraculous things was Jacobs Field, the sellout. That was crazy.
Sellout streak.
Sellout streak. Do you think something like that will happen with the Browns in the dome because of the newness of it? Will you think people will show up more, or will that eventually wear off?
No, we talked about this yesterday. I'm more concerned with the pricing and pricing out the fans. I mean, they'll be sellouts. They're going to sell out. But I'm worried about who can afford to go. People who go to 2 or 3 games now, 4 games now, may only go to 1. May only be able to afford to go to 1 in the future, because I just think the prices are going to be skyrocketing to get in.
Hey, listen, Haslam, the best thing you could do from a marketing standpoint is have dog pound seats that are priced accurately.
1,000%.
Where you could get the rowdy fans to come in there and make it the loudest place in the game, and still have it where you don't turn it into a wine and cheese party. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Like,
See what the Falcons did it. The Falcons, where they kept all the concessions cheap as hell.
Yeah.
And I mean, because look, to me, the home field advantage, like, this is the opportunity for you to gain that back. You talking about how loud it was in Cleveland. I go back and watch these 80s where you go back and watch those episodes, and the first thing they talk about is like, listen, this is crazy.
Yeah.
They got an opportunity to do that and have that because it is a dome. I'm anxious to see what like the setup is and how it looks.
Right.
And there's going to be a lot of years to kind of talk about that. But
Yeah, I hope that they have reasonably priced seats for people. I think they're going to be in the upper deck. That's just how the reality
That's how it goes, yeah.
That's how it goes. I think the dog pound's been dead since the stadium
Yes.
got knocked down.
Yep.
The dog, like, there is no such thing as a dog pound anymore, as far as I'm concerned. But I hope that they do something to allow everyday fans to be able to afford to get in there and go, even if it's just 1 game a year. You can't price out your most diehard fans.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's the only thing that I'm really concerned about with this.
Well, the dome is the premise of our next topic, Earl, which we'll get to after a quick read.
Yeah, don't forget the Guardians are playing a doubleheader today against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And if you want to get to the game, just download the Game Time app. View from all the seats in the venue and get the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download Game Time today, lowest price guaranteed.
So Earl sent us this question, which came from Steve Becker yesterday. EP Steve wanted to know when this new dome opens, which I think, Jason, 28 season? 29, 28?
28 would be the last year of the lease. It was a 30-year lease, so 28 would be the last year of the
29.
lease. Right? Is that right? Or is it 29? Well, it was a 30-year lease. Whatever. 30 years from 99.
So
28.
29.
29. No, 28, because 99, 2000, and then 28 years. So
then,
28 would be the last year of the lease.
So then 29 would be the first year.
29 would be the first
So
year.
when the new dome opens in 2020.
Who's on first?
Who's on the team? That's the question. Which guys on the current roster today do you think still have a chance to be in a Browns uniform in week 1 of the 2029 season when the Browns play their inaugural game at the Brook Park Dome? It's a short list.
It is a very short
How
list.
many you said in
So
what
it's
year? 2029?
It's 5 years from now.
Okay.
So you got the 24 season, 25 season, 26 season, 27 season, 28 season, and then, so it'll be 6 seasons from now.
Honestly, Zach Zinter,
I have a very short list.
like maybe DeJuan.
Zinter, MJ Emerson, and Mike Hall Jr. And
Mike
DeWan
Hall.
if he can stay healthy.
Yeah.
That was the big
Yeah,
question
Mike
mark.
Hall.
And hopefully Deshaun Watson, because quarterbacks can play. I mean, Deshaun's 28. He'd be 34.
Yeah.
That's 10 years before Brady decided to hang it up.
It's funny because I asked that exact question. Earl, I think you were on the panel. And I said, when do you think Deshaun will be here when the dome opens? And I think we all said no. Right? I don't want to put words
Yeah,
in your
I
mouth.
think, no,
Earl.
you're right. I think for me, because me and Mike talked about this yesterday, it's Zach Zinter, Mike Hall Jr., DeJuan Jones if he's healthy, and then if MJ Emerson keeps, climbing that ladder to be an elite number 1 corner one day, then he'll be on that team as well. But
be
outside of those guys, it's maybe Jock.
JLK
Maybe.
is young enough.
Could be Denzel.
Well, Denzel's 20.
Well, how old's Denzel?
I think he's 26, so he'd be 32. Maybe.
Maybe.
JOK's a maybe on the back end of a
Yeah.
deal.
Denzel's 27.
He's 33, probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
JOK's a little closer. It's essentially the guys they've drafted
Right now.
this year
Yeah,
and
last
maybe
year.
the year before.
I mean, maybe Cedric Tillman if he pops.
Yeah, maybe said Tillman. But the real question is Deshaun Watson. And you hope, because if he's here when it opens, that means he's played well enough to get a contract extension from the Browns, to get that second deal from Cleveland.
Yes.
He likes Cleveland enough to sign that second deal, stay here. That would be the best case scenario to open the dome with Deshaun Watson under center for the Browns. But there's a long way to go before we get there.
Yeah.
How many more years is on his deal?
This year, then 2 more. So he'd be in the middle of his next contract with Cleveland, but he'd be 34 years old, which is not that old for quarterbacks.
So all he need to do is, this is the way quarterback work. Like, I mean, they thought long and hard about giving Baker that money too. Like, starting over with quarterbacks is kind of wild. Like, you know what I'm saying?
It's tough, yeah.
If all he got to do is, if he have a good year this year, and then say the next year he has a decent year, but it ain't as good as the one he had this year, they're going to sign him to an extension, because they're going to say, well, look, I mean, he had 2 good years in a row. And how do you get one? So if they are decent and the team is too good around him for him to be terrible, what's the other way you can get a quarterback? Your draft pick ain't high enough. Do you want to mortgage a bunch of other picks to move up and get another guy? How would you get a quarterback and pivot if Deshaun is like bad?
You'd have to get lucky. You'd have to draft a guy in the second round. Or, if it's not going well, you would take a guy in the first round, middle of the end of the first round next year, maybe the year after. But we're a long ways from that. Or you'd find a guy in the second, third round and develop him like a Dak or a Tony Romo or one of those guys, and you get lucky. But I tend to agree with you. If he's here when the dome opens, that's a win.
It's a huge win.
Because
Giant dub. Yeah.
That means he's turned it around. But short of that, I can't sit here today and say I expect him to be on this team.
That's a lot of years. What is that? That's a lot of
It's
years.
6 years, 6 seasons from now.
That's a
You weren't here. I'm gonna give you hope, more hope about Deshaun. I told this to Bull the other day. I was thinking about this the other day. When we talk about like the amount of time that he's missed and can he reclaim his former self when he's missed so much time, it's a different sport, but there's a prime example of a guy out there who lost 5 years to injury and became completely irrelevant, and nobody thought another thing about him, and he's a freaking all-star and Cy Young candidate today, Chris Sale at the Atlanta Braves. Sale in Boston was just a wreck. Ton of injuries, ton of arm injuries, season ending. Nothing was going right. They traded him to Atlanta, and he's back to his former self. In his mid-30s, like he's like 34, 35. So it can happen. Like, I know it's a different sport, but if you can do it in baseball, you can do it as an NFL quarterback. So there is like there's because we kept saying like, how often does a guy miss this much time and then reclaim?
Yeah.
But one example still means it's extremely infrequent.
Absolutely.
However, there is proof,
that it can
tangible, evidential proof that it can happen.
Well, especially when it's been injuries that have cost you, which has been the case for him.
Yeah.
At least last year, that was the case for him. When it's injuries that take it away, if your body can get healthy and you can stay healthy, you can reclaim it.
You know, it's crazy. I say, I want my yards, right? I want my corners, just like Avon Barks said. I want my yards, man. But if the second thing that I want is the games. I just feel like if he plays 17 games, right? He plays all of them. He starts all of them, right? The numbers will be there.
Yes, I agree with that. I do agree with that.
So to me, that's why when you say, are you going to play Deshaun Watson? I was sitting there thinking about this on the drive in. Why are you going to play him in the preseason? I'm like, if I was Kevin Stefanski, that is your worst nightmare, right? Like you have a long-term contract. Andrew Berry has a long-term contract. You can withstand Deshaun Watson playing poorly a couple of games in the beginning of the season because he's rusty.
Can't have him get hurt.
But you can't survive. I mean, you can, but that puts you in such a bad place where
It caps you.
now it's like the rest of the year you're sitting here talking about the same. It's almost to a point where you want to end all dialogue. You just don't want to talk about it. I want to end it. I'm going to make sure he gets through this season. That's why you talk about people putting people in there to quarterback sneak.
Yeah.
Hey, I tell Dorsey, no. If you want to run a trick play with read options, I don't want to see none of that. It's
Well, they got some RPOs in the offense now. That's certainly a part of it. And Deshaun has said himself on his podcast that he likes to operate off-platform best, off-schedule. That's where he excels at, which puts himself at risk of taking hits, but it also puts him in a position to make dynamic down-the-field plays. And there's a fine balance between reckless and aggressive, and he has to thread that needle perfectly, but I'm not willing to take out those plays from Deshaun Watson because that's what makes Deshaun Watson special.
There was a play at the Greenbrier where, again, it's the Greenbrier. Like, this is far from an NFL game. But he's sort of like, he rolled left, completed the pass. It looked pretty. It looked good. But I was sitting there with Zach, and we both said, that's where you get hurt. Because he totally left himself exposed. He's going left, and just the way that he sort of opened himself up, it's like, that's how you're going to get hurt.
You know what I got respect for? I got respect for Patrick Mahomes because when I watch him and watch the documentaries that he's a part of, he practices that crap.
Yeah.
He practices how to fall. He practices how to contort or bend. So if he does it in the game, it's second nature. He practices all these little small things to keep himself on the field. And if you're gonna play like that, like you gotta be all in on playing like that.
Yeah.
You gotta have the conditioning, the training, understanding the down and distance, knowing when to fold them. Because like you said, like when you're contorting and moving and throwing the ball, it ain't about what happens when you throw it. It's about what happens when you let it go.
When you land.
And you land. Where's these
and who's on top of you.
Right. That is just crazy.
Wasn't it Tua that like practiced falling last year?
Yeah, Tua, after the concussion, they said, like, you're going to have 2 years left in your career if you don't learn how to fall and take sacks. He started doing judo.
Yeah.
And learned, like, judo toss and he essentially learned how to get tossed, which sounds terrible. But, like, He learned.
You got tossed up. That's crazy.
But he learned how to like fall and contort and make it so his head wasn't smashing against the ground when he got hit.
Yeah.
And to his credit, Tua went from a guy that had serious concerns. Could he last an entire NFL season? To missing like 4 snaps last year. It worked.
It's like playing Madden. Like, you throwing the ball around, you scoring. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna just keep throwing this rock. No, bro. Sometimes you got to take sacks. Sometimes you got to throw the ball away, and sometimes you don't need to be taking all the. Listen, Tom Brady used to see a guy coming free, he just fall.
Peyton
get down.
Manning did that too. Yeah.
Like
one hit is, and we saw what happened against Tennessee when Deshaun got hurt. The initial hit.
Yes.
And then he missed the San Francisco game, or he missed the Baltimore game, and the San Francisco game came back. We didn't even know in the moment that's what happened. Like, he didn't get knocked out of the game, but it's those kind of hits that if he can avoid will help the Browns be in the best position come playoff time to reach their ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Steve Becker, I don't know if you guys saw his text.
No.
Wants to know, I'll just tell you what it was. Wants to know, in 2029 when the Dome opens, we talked about the players, that is technically after the extensions for Berry and Stefanski run out.
Yeah.
Will Stefanski be the head coach for the first game within the Dome, and will Andrew Berry still be the GM?
I'm going to say yes to both, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm going to say yes to both because that would be, 10 years?
It'll be Stefanski's 9th season because 2020 was his first. No, 10, yeah.
It'd be 10 years.
10 years for both. Can you imagine 10 years of stability at those two positions?
How many NFL coaches have lasted 10 years or going in their 10th year?
There's like 4 in football right now. Tomlin,
That's it? I would have guessed more than that.
No, it's tiny.
I would have guessed probably 7 or 8.
Nope. I'll pull it up
Tomlin,
right now.
Andy Reid.
Harbaugh.
Yeah, John Harbaugh.
Longest tenured NFL coaches current right now. It's 3. We named them. Those are the 3.
Those are the 3.
You ready
Obviously,
for who's after
Belichick's
that?
Gone.
4. There's 3 coaches in 4th with 7 years. McDermott, McVay, and Shanahan.
Those are year 7?
Yep. And then Kevin Stefanski is tied for technically 5th on this list with 5 years. With
The Bengals guy.
Zach Taylor. Mm. Oh, I know. Those two are at 5. Taylor and LaFleur. And then Stefanski's at.
Who is it, 7?
Well, they list the was weird because they put the ties all as one.
Shanahan.
Tomlin, it goes Tomlin, Harbaugh, Reid.
Okay.
17, 16, 11 in that order. McDermott, McVay, Shanahan all have 7.
I think Shanahan makes it to 10. I don't think McVay does.
He'll probably retire before
Yeah,
then.
I don't think McVay makes it to 10.
McDermott was on the
He won't make it
outs
to
last
10.
year. I'd
He
be
won't make it
surprised.
to 10. But I think Shanahan can make it to 10.
LaFleur and Zach Taylor both have 5 years.
No, I don't think either one of them do.
I
Maybe
think
Taylor.
LaFleur. I think LaFleur's a
You
real
think
good
LaFleur?
coach. I think he's a really good coach. And then after that,
I say Taylor because the Bengals kept Marvin Lewis around
forever.
long.
And then after that, McCarthy and Stefanski.
I like the one. I don't know if it's a misconception, but the one thing I do believe about Jimmy and D is they crave stability at those spots. They just have never been able to find the right people to put there, and I think they realize now. I think what they have, and I think they're going to do it. I mean, again, they gave Hugh Jackson an extension. That's how desperate they were for stability.
After what? 0 and 16.
Oh,
right?
after
or 1 and 15.
Well, yeah, I can't remember now which one it was, but they gave him a 1-year extension because they were trying so desperately to get some stability at that spot. So they want that. They just haven't been able to find it. I think now that they realize they have it right, I do think I'm going to go out on a limb and say they'll be here.
I could see why they built the Dome, and it's like you talk about 6 years. I mean, Jimmy and D Haslam are both 70. I mean, in 6 years, that means you're 76. Like, at that age, or at that time, you looking for legacy, and you trying to figure out. You just realize how long that is. Like, like they got to make it not being morbid or anything.
No,
but,
it's a fair point, G. It's a good point.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? That's 6 more years. Like, anything can happen. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think that's why they kind of, Mary Kay says, hey, it hit a turning point. Now that turning point was some days you just wake up, you're like, hold on, I can't be going back and forth for a whole nother year. We need to get this finished and completed because this is going to take some time to get done. Like, and I don't know if that means the Dome is going to be done But is the dome guaranteed to be done by the lease?
Oh, it'll be done. It'll be done.
How long do you think it'll take?
4 years, probably 3-4 years to build. Well, that's not true. Probably less than that. Although with harsh winters in Ohio, the funding, like you got to figure out the funding on the front end, obviously first. And again, I did a ton of work on Minnesota, and I think Minnesota from the ballot to the doors opening was about 4 years. So they have they need to go. They have time, but they need to go.
Yeah.
We're getting to the point where they got to put their foot in the ground and make a decision here.
Yeah,
but they do. It'll be open by 2029.
If that lease is done by 28, if that's the final year, it'll be ready for 29. Trust me, they're not gonna build the dome, but then also play a year in between stadiums. That's not a possibility.
Yeah, and they have time,
And
especially if they're not taking it to the ballot. They definitely have time.
And then so they'll probably implode the stadium.
I would imagine so. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to put there, but I would imagine there's no need to have it there at that point.
You know what kind of credit score you got to have to just get a stadium?
Higher than 700.
Right.
Is there a max credit score?
Yeah, 850.
850.
If it's like the highest it goes?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's wild, lady. I ain't filling out no credit card for a T-shirt in the mall for that, man. Like 850. Like let me get that. Let me get a stadium, dog.
You get your Cavs throw blanket with the stadium.
You know how y'all almost. Hey, y'all don't do that. That is predatory. You shouldn't do that. Don't be signing up for that stuff. That almost killed my credit when I was younger, bro. That and having bills in my name when I was young. I didn't even know I had a cable bill back in the day, but I did.
We're going to get our next guest on here in a sec, but first, Earl's got a quick read for us.
Yeah, man, before we bring on our next guest, I just want you to know that this next segment is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions may apply.
All right, do we have our guest ready? And there he is. It is Frank Schwab of Yahoo Sports. Frank, thanks for joining us today here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And Frank, the reason we wanted to bring you on is we have ran the gambit of all the power rankings heading into 2024, and we've seen the Browns ranked as low as 22 on some and as high as 7 on others. Yeah, FanDuel had them at 22, which was crazy to us. You had them at number 7, which was the highest we saw. So we were curious, what makes you so much higher on the Browns heading into 2024 than the rest of some of the people putting together these power rankings?
Yeah, I knew I was going to be the highest on the Browns. I'm just really, really high on them this year in general because I look at it this way. I like teams with one variable. There's only one variable with the Cleveland Browns. We know the defense is going to be good. It was great last year. We know their skill positions are going to be really good, whether it's Mary Cooper or Brandon Aiyuk. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a second. We know their coach is good, 2-time NFL Coach of the Year. One thing has to happen, and that's Deshaun Watson playing at an above-average level. And if he does that, I think the Browns could go to the Super Bowl. I really do. They're going to be my pick to lose in the Super Bowl to the Detroit Lions. As crazy as that sounds coming out of my mouth, I really believe in that because I still haven't given up hope that Deshaun Watson can be an above-average quarterback. In Vegas, the over-under on the Browns right now is 8.5. You're telling me that Vegas thinks Deshaun Watson is 3 games worse than Joe Flacco last year? Because they won 11 with Joe Flacco playing at the end of the year. I think that's crazy. I think it's absolutely insane. Joe Flacco had a good run last year. Was that because Joe Flacco found some fountain of youth, or was it because he had a really, really good team around him? I'm guessing the latter. I think Deshaun Watson, as long as his shoulder's okay, and there are obvious questions about that, I think if his shoulder's okay, he can be not the guy we saw in Houston. I don't think that guy's coming back anymore. But I think he could be a good, solid quarterback. And we've already seen the Browns win 11 games with a below average quarterback play. What if Watson's above average? That's what I'm banking on when I put the Browns on.
Yeah, one of the things that I keep seeing is there's a lot of people who have like the Chicago Bears higher than the Browns, and I get that like people like Caleb Williams, and I like their pieces, DJ Moore, Roman Dunze, they went out and got a bunch of other guys, but that's hard to say like that you have more faith in a guy that you have never seen throw a pass over a guy you did see throw passes, but you like you say, you may not think he's going to get back to there, but that would say that you feel like you have a complete fall off at that position.
Right.
I don't understand how they could, rank them ahead of the Browns. What are some of the teams that, people are ranking very high that you kind of think are like, nah, you guys are crazy for that?
One of them is the Bengals. I don't know about the Bengals. Look, we all want to just chalk up Cincinnati's lost season to, Joe Burrow got hurt. That's the only reason. Let's move on. It's not that easy. Jake Browning had a better passer rating than Joe Burrow last year. Jake Browning had a better PFF grade than Joe Burrow last year. Jake Browning ain't better than Joe Burrow. I get that. But I'm just saying, if you buy into this narrative that the Bengals just fell apart because the quarterback play was so bad without Joe Burrow, that isn't the reason. They had a lot of issues on defense last year, a lot of issues on the offensive line. T. Higgins became a ghost as he deals with his contract situation. There's some things the Bengals have to prove to me. Look, they could be a Super Bowl contender again. It's perfectly reasonable to think that. But I need to see it first. And then some of the other teams that, even the Packers. The Packers have only played a good half season. We forget that if the Seattle Seahawks beat the Pittsburgh Steelers late in the year, the Seahawks hosted them and got upset by Mason Rudolph. The Seahawks are going to the playoffs, not the Packers. And we're not thinking about the Packers the same way. So that's another team. I like the Packers, but are we a little too far ahead of ourselves with them? Or the Falcons. So we don't know what Kirk Cousins is going to look like with a 36 years old coming off an Achilles injury. So there's a few teams that I think could slip a little bit. We know some are. Like, there's a team just about every year that starts in the top 5 of these power rankings and doesn't even make the playoffs. It's going to happen to somebody, and we'll see who it is. I can't lie. I'm still distracted by somebody ranking the Browns 22nd. I think that's crazy. Like, you could add like historical teams into the mix. You could add like the last 5 years into the mix, and the Browns should be 22. They were 11-6 last year with DTR starting games. Like, what are we thinking with? There's such, and I'll tell you why. This is, and I think this is the honest reason. I'm sure you guys have discussed this, thought about this, everything. People dislike the Browns now because of Deshaun Watson, and I get it. Look, the Browns made themselves an unlikable team. We talked about this on our podcast, on our Yahoo podcast. If somehow my Lions-Browns things come true, what would that mean? What would that look like? I think 98% of the country would be rooting for the Lions because everybody hates the Browns right now. But I think it's seeping into people's thought process of what the Browns really are as a team. Deshaun Watson's not a likable guy. I get that. But this is a team that won 11 games last year with really, really bad quarterback play. How are they going to be that much worse? How are they going to be the 22nd best team in the NFL? I don't get that at all. I think this Browns team's really, really good. I get that they're not likable. Get that Deshaun Watson's not a dude you want to root for, really, outside of Cleveland, maybe. But it's just crazy to me to think the Browns are going to slip that far.
Earl, you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, Frank, man, that's great commentary. It's funny, me and G. Bush was talking about something along these lines on Saturday. As a national guy, you seem to be pretty high on the Cleveland Browns. But the conversation we were having is that here locally in the media, we can be pretty tough on our team. And sometimes we can be pessimistic. We don't really think that things are going to come through. We kind of wait on the other shoe to drop. And we had this thought process, well, maybe national guys look at local guys and say, well, if they think the other shoe was going to drop, then why the hell should we have any faith? Do you think that some national pundits look at the Cleveland Browns like that?
I don't think so. I think part of it is they play in a really tough division. Let's make the reasonable argument to not think the Browns are going to be that good this season. Really, really tough division. They could finish third in that division, and it wouldn't surprise anybody, right? Like, the Ravens are really good. The Bengals could bounce right back with Joe Burrow being healthy. I get that possibility. The Browns, running back, really not much there. We don't know that Nick Chubb's coming back and going to be the same Nick Chubb. We saw that injury. It was awful. Like, there's just no guarantee they're going to have the kind of running game to really support Deshaun Watson there. And then there's the Deshaun Watson health question. We don't, like, he's not going to play this week, and there's a reason, because they're limiting his reps, pitch count, all that kind of stuff. I think that's a real thing. We don't know that Deshaun Watson just bounces back from the shoulder surgery, right? And then there's just Deshaun Watson just might be bad now. Like, that's possible. I've accounted for that possibility. It's been a long time since we've seen him be a good NFL quarterback. I keep thinking back to that second half of the Ravens game last year. He's awesome. Like, he dragged that team back and won 33-31. But mostly Deshaun Watson has not been good for the Cleveland Browns. Is that just who he is now? It would be absolutely unprecedented. There's never really been a quarterback at his age to completely fall off from being a top 5 to 10 guy and completely fall off if injury's not involved. He would just fall off, but his whole situation is unprecedented. So those are the reasons. You could make an argument, yes. And also the defensive greatness is not always sticky from year to year, right? Like there's much more fluctuation in defensive greatness and offensive greatness. So maybe Jim Schwartz's defense takes a step back. I understand some of the reasons why somebody wouldn't be as high on the Browns as I am, but I just think people are failing to look at the upside case here at the Browns, which is if Deshaun Watson is the 10th best quarterback in football, this might be the best team in the NFL.
Frank, week 1 when the season kicks off, Brandon Aiyuk will be in a what jersey?
Oh man, it's looking like I think the winds are shifting towards Pittsburgh at this point, but I don't know. I'm curious to know. Like, I really have to know what you guys think of the whole idea of, okay, the Browns are trading Amari Cooper and a pick for Brandon Aiyuk, because I look at this as they're not that much different. Amari Cooper, a little inconsistent. I get that. Brandon Ayuk's better, no question, and he's younger. But as far as these two players, I don't see that there being that big of a gap where I would send a really, really valuable draft pick to San Francisco, also pay Aiyuk, also pay Amari Cooper's dead cap hit for next year if he's traded. I don't love this deal for Cleveland as much as I should. When I first heard about it, I was like, oh, Aiyuk to the Browns, that's going to be amazing. You know, Jerry Jeudy becomes number 3, all that kind of stuff. And then I'm like, oh, wait, they got to give up Amari, too. I don't know how they really get that much better as a team at this
Do they have to give up Amari, though, Frank? Or is there
maybe not. That's just the speculation. I'd be surprised if San Francisco did this without Amari Cooper coming back, because they're in a Super Bowl window. They need somebody back. They were going to get Kendrick Bourne from the Patriots, the reports say. And so if the Browns can pull this off without giving up Amari Cooper or any other piece like that, Njoku, I don't think that's going to happen. But then I would love it for the Browns. But if they're giving up Cooper in this deal, and there has been reporting that says that Cooper's could be involved, then I just don't get it for the Browns side. I don't know that I really get it for the 49ers side that much, except that, you're getting rid of an unhappy asset to get a really, really good receiver and a pick back.
On a different note, Frank, I'm curious. The Browns brought in Mike Vrabel to be a consultant this year to help Kevin Stefanski and Jim Schwartz and just be an extra set of eyes and ears in terms of game planning and preparation. I've always liked Vrabel as a head coach. He's obviously an accomplished head coach. How much do you think he can offer and help this Cleveland's Brown team as they get ready to take on some opponents that Vrabel has some legit hands-on experience preparing for as a head coach of the Titans the last few years?
Yeah, I have a ton of respect for Vrabel, and I think the Titans are going to regret letting him go. I mean, it sounded like a power struggle between him and ownership, and ultimately they just decided, hey, we're just going to go in a different direction. But as far as Vrabel goes, I think that he's gotten more out of his teams the past few years than any other coach. I think that's a sign of a good coach. I think he's a smart guy, obviously coming from the Belichick tree. Those guys don't always work out, but they know football. Vrabel knows football. And I think it says something about Stefanski, too, that he's comfortable enough to say, this guy's considered one of the better coaches in the NFL, but I don't care about that. I just want another set of eyes. I'm comfortable with my job security, as he should be as a 2-time coach of the year, and bringing in a guy like Mike Vrabel, because he doesn't threaten me at all. He's only going to help us. So I think this is just a net positive for the Browns. How could it be bad? How could it be bad to add a Mike Vrabel to your staff as just a guy in the room to say, hey, have you thought about this? Oh, we scouted these guys last year, as you guys alluded to. We scouted these guys last year. They don't do this well. Whatever it is, I think bringing in a great football mind like Vrabel is a really good thing for the Browns this year.
You know what, Frank? I was just sitting there thinking of when you said some of the downsides and the ups and the downs of picking the Browns high or low. I thought that was really, very thought provoking, because you got to think about the upside and the downside. And one of the downsides was Nick Chubb, and I've had 2 ACL surgeries, so I know how difficult it is to come back. And I'm a defensive lineman. I wasn't cutting nowhere and doing none of that. But what if Nick Chubb comes back and he's 95% of what Nick Chubb traditionally is? Didn't play all last year with Deshaun Watson. How does that change Deshaun Watson's life or his possible trajectory if you can get a guy like Nick Chubb to be there for the majority of the year, and he's 95% of what Nick Chubb is.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's possible because we've seen him do it once. A really, really bad knee injury, obviously, in college, everybody's talked about, and came back to be one of the NFL's best runners. He's, as just a pure runner goes, Nick Chubb's right up there with anybody you want to name, McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, all those guys. He was absolutely awesome. So, yeah, 95% of Nick Chubb could be a really, really good running back behind that offensive line. And we talked about, how Deshaun Watson isn't exactly the guy everybody wants to root for. Nick Chubb is the guy everybody wants to root for. I think everybody wants Nick Chubb to come back 100% and be the Nick Chubb of old. He's just a guy who is fun to watch. He carries himself in such a great way. Like, I love Nick Chubb. I think he's a great player, and it was heartbreaking to see that injury last year. And, we saw by now the video of him squatting 600 some pounds or whatever it was. He's kind of one of these guys where the normal rules don't apply. So could he come back early in the season and be a big factor for the Browns? Yes, absolutely. We have to account for that. And if he does, combined with good quarterback play, that really transforms what this Browns team can do. As much as Jerome Ford's fine. Anybody who they could pick up late in the process, P. Ryan or whatever, whoever's going to be available at the end of this month, they'd be fine. Nick Chubb gives them a chance to be special at that position. If he is, like you said, 95% of what he usually is, he could be really, really good for this football team. And again, he's such a physical freak that it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Awesome. Well, Frank, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to join us here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Make sure you check him out online at Yahoo and on Twitter at the Twitter handle we just had on the screen. Frank, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
So we brought in Frank to talk some power rankings, and he delivered the hammer. So shout out to Frank.
Yeah, man.
He's higher on the Browns than most, or especially from the outside looking in.
I mean, he's not wrong. Like, they're like, I wouldn't have the Browns as high as 7, and I like the Browns. I wouldn't have them 7. That's high, right? I'd have them anywhere between that. McNuggets, you're brilliant at doing that. Anywhere between 10 and 8.
Give a range.
Anywhere between
Give
10
a range, yeah.
I got them here somewhere in about 11. But here's the thing: there is some ups that they got. There is some downside to it, right? Like there are some things that can go a little bit wrong. One of them is not playing your quarterback until week 1, because I don't think he's going to play all that much.
No. Speaking of playing that much, the Guardians are playing a ton today. We're going to talk about today's doubleheader after we talk to Earl.
Yeah, just a quick word. Don't forget to subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Don't forget to ring the bell to stay in the know for all of our spinoff shows, the Ultimate 216 Show, the Ultimate Cavs Show, the Ultimate Brown Show, and the Ultimate Garden Show. Again, man, ring the bell, subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
So the Guardians got rained out yesterday, and now they're playing a doubleheader against Arizona. Ben Lively on the mound for the first game, Cookie Carrasco on the mound for the second game. The Guardians do have tomorrow off before they take on Minnesota in a 4-game series in Minnesota. But Jason, with Lively and Carrasco on the mound, after the bullpen got hit pretty hard on Monday, and a series with Minnesota coming up this weekend, a crucial series because the standings are getting closer and closer now.
Yeah.
How important is it for the Guardians to get some depth from their starting pitchers so they don't have to run through their bullpen prior to this upcoming series with Minnesota?
Well, certainly in game 1, I think you're putting a lot on Ben Lively today because you're probably not going to get – I don't know how you can expect to get 5-6 out of Cookie in game 2, so it really puts more pressure on game 1. And Lively's delivered at every turn. We talked about his last start against Baltimore and how impressive he was. So you got to have full faith in him at this point to do it. What I'm more interested in is Friday. I know we'll talk about that, I'm sure, later in the week, but Alex Cobb now scheduled to make his debut.
Yep.
Yeah, on Friday in that series. So get a good first look at Alex Cobb and the trade acquisition, his first start. But, hopefully the weather cooperates today. I haven't seen the forecast, but I didn't know a tornado was coming yesterday.
Right.
So hopefully
it looks clear according to
clear
our weather
enough
app. Yeah.
to get, because the last thing you want to do is mess around with a National League team and have a game to make up. And we're getting to the point in the season now where off days are hard to come by. So hopefully they get both of these in today and get 2 good starts. You're really counting on Ben Lively right now.
Yeah, you need a good Lively start.
Listen, he at this point, ain't no like thinking it's a good story. They need all the innings they can get from him. He one of their best pitchers right now, so you got to depend on him as one of your best pitchers. So, and I'm looking at it like this: they got this doubleheader today, and then they got that series against Minnesota. They 3.5 behind. They slowly but surely, Minnesota's creeping and slow walking.
Yeah,
you got to win that series. I don't want to call it like I need to get 2 of these today. You can't call that out. You can't ask for just to get the win the doubleheader. But it'd be great if we could. Because you look up, Kansas City won't go away. Minnesota is chilling. And guess what? We got 3 against them coming up. And I believe it's at Minnesota, right?
it is at Minnesota. I think I messed up the
And I
standings
don't like
graphic.
their
I think
ballpark
I think they have a 4-game lead.
Minnesota.
Yo,
I
this
don't
sounds,
like it. I don't like
This
it.
sounds weird because they are on the losing streak. But Jason, maybe this is a question to you. To me, it's not like they've looked bad losing. It's kind of been like, just some bad luck, bad situations that come out to it because we're hitting the ball well.
Yeah, real quick, Jason. I screwed up on that graphic. They have a 4-game lead. It's not 3.5. It's 4 games, not 3.5.
Okay.
But yes, back to the.
Okay,
back
well, I
to
feel
the-
better about the 4. I don't know why
It is.
3.
3.5 feels a lot different than 4. Yeah.
Just look at the loss column. That's the only thing that matters right now anyway. But, I mean, Earl, to your point, you lose an extra innings, like, okay, it's baseball. Like, it's going to happen. But, if you look at the upcoming schedule, split today, get realistic.
You got to split today.
If you get a split out of this today, and if you take 2 or 3 from Minnesota, you have to feel pretty
We're
good. About where
good.
you're at.
4 versus Mini, so they can split 2-2.
Oh, that's right.
So 4-game set
Well,
versus Mini.
yeah. If you take, you want to win the series and gain a game. You don't ever go in thinking you're going to sweep. I forgot it was a 4-game series. At worst case, you got to get out of there with a split.
But if you lose that series,
Well, it's
Now-
game on. If
now
you lose, yeah.
now I got vomit in my mouth.
Yeah.
Like, just,
Well, and you got Milwaukee coming up too. In Milwaukee, who's playing out of their minds right
Yeah.
now. Chicago's hit or miss. They look great on some days.
and
they
then
look
we
terrible
don't be
on
playing
others.
all that great against Chicago. I don't be liking that
No,
neither.
no. Well, that's the White Sox. These are the Cubs.
Oh, okay, these are the Cubs.
Which the White Sox won a game yesterday. They snapped the streak.
didn't Tyvus call that they were going to win? I thought Tyvus called that.
He did, yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Tyvus, the baseball knower of all things. Home runs and White Sox wins. What up, Earl?
Totally off the record, but shout out to my homeboy 4-6 who was always watching the show. He said, "Tell G Bush that hoodie is hard."
Oh,
Your
man, I
hoodie is
appreciate
tough.
that, man. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I got a little something, man. I got this old. You know what I'm saying? It's old. I had this a couple. By the way, you ever find something in the back of your closet and be like, ho, what's this? Found this moneymaker from 06. I done had this hoodie for a minute.
So that's the old orange. That's before the orange was
Yeah,
larger?
this is, and that means I couldn't wear it for a while neither. I just got fat up top, so I couldn't wear it. Just whole torso was crazy.
I got a question for you guys real quick on the Guardians. Looking through some numbers, trying to figure out their best matchups. I still can't understand why Kyle Manzardo has been called up. He had his 15th homer in AAA yesterday. Are we sure David Fry's still an everyday lineup guy? Because I was going through these splits, and Steve, will you take David Fry's stats full, and these will be his season stats? I'm going to read you his month-by-month splits since May, because the trend lately is not good. Those numbers, if you told us we were getting that from David Fry, we'd all do backflips.
Yeah.
In May, in the month of May, 62 at-bats, David Fry hit .383, 7 homers, 18 RBIs, and a 1.263 OPS, best in baseball.
So that was just in May.
In May, he was incredible in May.
7 home runs. He had 2
Arguably the
since
best
then?
hitter in baseball in May. In June, he hit .246 and 63 at-bats, 246, no homers, 5 RBIs, a 669 OPS, literally cut in half. In July, Jason, he hit .217, no homers, 3 ribbies, a 527 OPS. And so far in August, and it's only been 7 days in August, small sample size, he's hitting 111. He did hit a homer with a 436 OPS. And I'm just not quite sure that he's an everyday lineup guy. Against righties, Jason, he's hitting one of the below league average now against righties, despite that red hot start.
I'm just
So
saying.
I'm not quite sure what you do with him. He still needs to play. He crushes lefties still, but I'm just not sure if he's an everyday guy in the lineup.
Well, I think you have that question about a lot of their guys right now. And the Manzardo thing, it felt like they didn't want to call him up the first time.
Yeah.
They were almost forced into it by injuries. And again, I think it comes down to they clearly didn't want to play him at first base. They deferred to Naylor on that. But I'm kind of with you. Like, I mean, we're at the point now. If he has any chance of helping you in the postseason, you got to know now.
Yeah.
You got to get another look at him. We saw Jackson Holiday. We mentioned that yesterday. Holiday was awful. Baltimore recalled him. He's looked much better the second time around. Hopefully Manzardo would have the same sort of success the second time around. Certainly against righties, you should be able to find a spot for him to play him at first base /DH and
That David Fry role.
you have to commit well, but you're not going to play him.
I know he can't play outfield.
He's not as versatile as Fry. He's only going to play first base. You're not. There was talk earlier about putting Manzardo on the outfield. I think that's nuts, and obviously he's not going to catch. But if you can commit to playing him a couple days a week at first base, that would certainly help him, I think. They're just in that sort of wonky period right now with Naylor and Manzardo and trying to find a bats for both.
It's like when Fry made the All-Star team, it was going to be difficult to start platooning him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Not that they pay attention to that, but
He just hasn't been playing well, though.
he just, I granted, he hasn't. My problem with the Guardians is that when I look at them, I don't know where I'm getting my production from. Besides the three. Like, they've been doing a good job of one day it's this guy, another day it's this guy, another day it's this guy. But I don't know if that works in the postseason. Like, I don't know if you can platoon guys in the postseason where it's like they're not getting consistent at-bats with playoff pitching, because then you'll have 3 or 4 guys going into the tank if you trying to find spots and bats.
If you platoon guys in the regular season, yeah, you platoon them in the post. If you have a straight platoon of you have 2 right fielders, this guy hits righties, this guy hits lefties, then yes, you would carry that into the postseason. But to me, it just feels like the Guardians are still trying to mix and match at a number of positions as to what's their best lineup.
And it's crazy that they've had as much success as they are, whereas deep into the season as we are. And I feel like the Guardians have like 5 spots locked up and the rest are completely in flux, whether who's playing center field, shortstop, right field. Like, it's for a team that's as good as they've been
right
from a record standpoint, as close as we are to the end of the regular season, you would assume they have some of these answers down, and maybe it's a good thing they don't because it gives them that flexibility. But it's just a weird situation to be in, that there are still so many question marks on a night-in, night-out basis with this team in terms of what are you getting from your starter and who's playing 3 key positions in the lineup on any given night.
I think they got to be in the top 5 at different starting lineups in the league. They have to be.
Do you know how to look that up, Jason?
Yeah, not in 30 seconds, but I can look it
But
up
they probably started. They got a variety. Like you said, there's only 3 positions that really stay static. Like,
there's a lot of teams now, like back, in the 90s, you had your lineup, and that was who you ran out there every day. There's a lot of teams now that change lineups that are matchup based, depending on righty lefty. So I tend to agree they're probably among the league leaders in lineup fluctuation, but I think there's a lot of teams that mix it up now, more so than ever before.
Prediction for today's doubleheader: Lively versus, I can't never pronounce that guy's name.
I didn't see who Arizona's throwing.
It's Brandon Pfaadt. I can never pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Brandon
Pat.
How do you pronounce that, Jason?
I don't. Fought.
He pitched great in the World Series last year.
Yeah.
Like, he was one of their better guys. And then the second game, it's Eduardo Rodriguez against
Coming off the DL
against Cookie Carrasco. So what's your prediction for these 2 games for the Guards?
I'll stick with the split. Give me a split.
Yeah.
I think they win game 1 and probably struggle in game 2.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take the split.
I'll go optimistic. It's
Take
a
a
new
sweep.
new day in Cleveland. Sun shines out, beautiful day. We survived the storm for the most part. Hopefully no one died. I didn't mean to say that in jest, but like we got past it. Give me Ben Lively for 7 innings, 5 strikeouts, 1 run, and you ready for this? Cookie's going 4.5.
You can't go half.
4 1/3. He's going 4 1/3 strong, baby.
Bro,
Give me Jose Ramirez, 2 base hits. Give me Jose.
Are you betting these?
2 RBIs. That'll be my FanDuel parlay, 4-leg parlay. Yeah, I'm gonna do 2 hits, 2 RBIs
In both games?
and I'm gonna go Lively over on the strikeouts.
Thoughts, real quick? We got a minute. Thoughts on that parlay?
2 hits is rough.
I don't mind
parlays.
it. What's his strikeout line?
I gotta look it up. But whatever
Whatever it is,
Take the over. Hammer the over.
Yeah.
9.5. Take the over.
He doesn't strike out a lot of
No,
guys, so I can't imagine it being more than like 4.5.
It's probably like
5.5.
4.5.
4.5, 5.5.
Yeah.
Arizona doesn't swing and miss a ton. But Earl, I'm riding with you. I'll put $10 on it.
I deleted
On
my
FanDuel.
I deleted my FanDuel until football season.
Hey, 30 seconds. I got a real cool overtime topic that I didn't share.
Shoot.
So, if everybody on this panel had a sandwich, a Cleveland sandwich named after them, what would it be and what would be on it?
Well, you'll find out in overtime coming up in just a few minutes right here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Peace.